All right, mate. We're okay. So it's finally. How long was it? It wasn't that long, actually.
Actually, it wasn't. No, because we started, I think, just before 12 that I came. I was trying to come on. So about 20 minutes.
You mean today? Yeah. Oh, mate, that's nothing. Believe me, I've been sitting here for an hour and a half waiting for people to get technology set up. I'm talking about from when I first asked you.
Right. Oh, God, it's been quite a few months now, isn't it?
Which isn't that long.
About 2 months, something like that.
I've asked some people, and sometimes people say yes, and then it's like a year later. Mm-hmm. And they've got their microphone.
It happens. Life gets in the way, I guess.
Do you want to do this podcast or not? Yeah, so the thing is that the people that I tend to speak to, they're all busy. People are busy. And it's like they're not like celebrities who like part of their job is to make time for a podcast. They're busy. They're workers. That's the type of people I tend to speak to. People who've actually got a job, or people who I see on TikTok who generally I'll say, "Oh, he looks interesting." I'll speak to him. Or people who I just know in the industry. They're always busy. So it's hard work. So what is it? Rocha. I knew it would be. Sounds better.
Yeah, Rocha. Like Ferrero Rocher.
Nice. So Alex Rocha.
My wife actually likes, my wife loves the name because it's got like a posh tang to it. Yeah, and she thinks, know what, we got a standing joke that we call her Mrs. Bouquet.
It does sound posh. Especially English would say, oh, that sounds posh. That's a posh name.
Yeah. She's so posh that I went out of my way, and she's now actually, her title is Lady Claire. Because I went online and I bought a title, right, just out of a joke. But the joke turned to be, ooh, that suits me actually.
Lady Rocha.
Lady Rocha.
What country is it?
I'm Portuguese.
Yeah. We'll get to that. Just interesting tidbit. Yeah. So, how are you off? Have you had a day off or what?
No, I was working this morning. Had to catch up on a few things, and then came home about 10 o'clock. Started getting myself ready and sighting myself up because my head has been all over the place for the past 2 days. But yeah, I'm all right now.
You can tell us about that, mate.
Yeah.
I think. Thanks for doing the what do you call it? Preview.
Did you like it?
Yeah, I think you might have bigged it up too much, though. You know, when you get what do they call them for movies? The movie previews.
Yeah.
And they're always better than the film.
Oh, mate. Honestly.
The trailers. That's what I'm thinking of, the trailers. So you've done a trailer for your podcast, and I'm like, fucking hell. I hope people... I don't know what people are expecting. It's just me. I'm just like an idiot. I just ask questions. That's it.
No, you know what, right? I think you should push your podcast out a bit more because I think it's brilliant.
I'm not, to be honest, mate. So everything I do, right? So this isn't the only thing I do, but the one thing I wouldn't say struggle with, but not as good at is promoting myself. I'm the same with everything. And one of the reasons is money, because marketing costs, and I haven't got the cash to pump a load of adverts out. But I could do more that doesn't cost anything. I'm just not as good at it. That's all. So I'm always like the other things that I do. I make it clear so the tradesmen who buy stuff off me, and to be honest, I prefer it this way. It's really important that they show. Because if they're on social media, they tend to be better than me at doing the social media anyway. But I think it coming from a trader to other tradesmen or tradeswomen, it's far better than me. Imagine if I couldn't do this, but if I got all polished and I became like this charismatic sales guy who speaks really well, I think it's still better coming from a tradesman than the sales guy. Way better.
Yeah. I think, you see, there's one thing that I don't quite understand about social media is that every time you sort of try and big someone up or advertise a product or something like that, the very first thing that comes into people's head, you're on commission. You're trying to earn something.
Yeah.
And you know what? Half of the time, it's not about that. It's about you believing someone or you believing a product.
Mm.
And you think to yourself, you know what? I think that person or that product needs more recognition. And I'm going to give it to them, or I'm going to try and give it to them. But then there's always that underlying question in people's head. What is he getting out of it? Well, and I'm not there to justify what I'm getting out of it or what I'm not getting out of it.
Yeah.
But in fact, I'm not getting anything out of it. I'm just doing it purely out of enjoyment,
Yeah.
And,
I think when people see social media, this happens to me all the time. So I do Perflex. Loads of people assume I'm rich because there's lots of videos of tradesmen using my product. I'm nowhere near rich, like nowhere fucking near. Can barely pay myself a wage sometimes. But I think the people that do it for me, and I don't pay them, I'd openly say if I ever paid anyone, because why not? Why wouldn't I pay Alex to do a video for me? Because that's fine. It fucking doesn't matter. As long as he likes the product, why shouldn't he get paid? But anyway, the people that do it for me, they just get it. And they don't only do it for me. Sometimes someone will tag me. I've never met them before. But they understand that all these products that they're using, there's a business behind that product, and maybe a small business or a person who's been pushing it and trying. Because they run their own business themselves, they understand. I'm gonna push this product and help this person out because I like the product, and if it helps them, I like the product anyway. But what was his name? Scottish guy. So there's a lad named John. I didn't know him, but he tagged me to say I like this product, blah blah blah. But he doesn't only do it for me; he does it for everything that he uses because he gets it. Where he bought it from, which was a small independent shop, the product is used. Some of them are small businesses, some of them are big businesses. But he understands that if he helps them a little bit, like I'll help him a little bit later on, and that's like if he needs any support with anything, we can help each other out.
Yeah. Shane, I think my microphone has gone off again. No? No, it's on.
No, it's on. All right. Yeah. It got better when you got closer.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's about helping each other out rather than making money.
It is,
The people that get it, and the people that don't just assume, fucking hell, he's making loads of money, but you don't. You're just trying to get by.
Yeah, the reality of social media and real life is a bit different, and a lot of people, this is the one thing that I sort of find an issue with, is people going on and sort of boasting or bragging about how much they make. And everybody thinks that everybody's on social media is making a ton of money out of revenue and out of the work that they do and the exposure they have and so on. And it's not always reality.
No. I
mean, I work 6, sometimes 7 days a week, and no, I'm not rich. No. Not at all.
No. And to be honest, mate, even if you were, so what? So I've said this loads of times to other people. If you've got a presence on social media, right, and I say it to loads of people, not everybody has got that charisma. I certainly haven't, and that's one of the reasons you don't see me doing loads of stuff, because I just haven't got the content. I don't present it well enough. I know I don't. I'm skilled in other things. But if someone is good at that, and they do it anyway, if they can figure out a way to do that and make some money, why not? Like, they're doing it anyway. People still enjoy it. And I've said before, people are watching your TikTok now, or your Instagram or whatever, or someone else's TikTok or Instagram. You're entertaining them. So every other form of entertainment makes fucking money. So if you want to do it for free, great, do it for free. And if that's how you build your following, great. But at some point, if you can figure out a way of making money without changing what you do or becoming a sellout or whatever, I'm sure if you did change what you do or become a sellout, you'd soon lose your followers.
I don't get that word, a sellout. I really, it's beyond me. I try and comprehend it, but I can't comprehend it at all, because
if you all of a sudden started saying, buy this bollocks, it's fucking great, but obviously you don't like it, then that's a bit of a sellout then, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're just doing anything for money at that point.
yeah, if you're advertising crap just for the money, just to get the money out of it, then I can see that being as a sellout. But if you sort of go from being a builder or an electrician or whatever the case may be, and you start doing social media and you become really good at it and you start getting sponsors or you start getting, promos and stuff like that, and you start making money on social media and you drive yourself more towards the social media side of it than what you do towards the physical side, I don't see that as a sellout. And a lot of people do see that as a sellout.
No. Social media is a genuine career. No.
Yeah.
It's not even new. It's not even like strange for me to say, oh bloody hell, you could probably make a career. It's been a career option for years.
Yep.
Well, I remember when Martin was on the podcast, the Mastic Man.
Yeah.
And I was saying to him, that's a while back now, it was about a year ago. And I was saying to him, like, I'm no expert, but you're not going to be a Mastic Man forever. And you might do. You might do it for content. But he was clearly, everything he did, he became not a celebrity, but because of his charisma and what's the word? His passion for whatever he did. So whether it was biking, Mastic, it came across. Cars he also did. I was like, you're going to end up doing something where your main source of income isn't applying silicon to fucking bathrooms. And I still think that's true today. And I think he's getting more and more exposure from bigger and bigger social media companies. And I'm sure people have said to him, oh, you're selling out now, or assume he's loaded or something. He's not. He's working. He's working on something, and he'll end up making something of it. I know he will.
There's always that presumption, but yeah, you're always going to get that. You're never going to please everybody, unfortunately, and that's how the cookie crumbles.
Yeah. So I know you from TikTok. So somebody recommended you to me. I wasn't following you at the time. So Steve, he's called Marksman Interiors?
Marksman Interiors.
On TikTok. So I've known Steve for a while now. 2 or 3 years maybe, because he was one of the first people to start using my product and he helped me out a lot with it. So he sent me your TikTok account and said follow him, see if you'd like him on the podcast because he's interesting. And he was right.
Do you know what? That's really weird. Right? Weird, funny in a way, because it's funny how small the world is and how things sort of revolve around each other, because basically I never knew he was the one that sort of introduced me to you. And I always wondered, did someone shout me out, or did Shane just spot me and sort of got an interest in me or the way I speak or whatever? And I didn't know until last weekend, right? Where we were sat down having a meal, and he turned around and he says, do you know who introduced you to Shane? I said, no, it was me.
Oh, right. So you've met him in person?
Well, you see, this is where it gets really weird, because I'm doing a gas course at the moment.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm starting to become a gas engineer. Why? I don't know. It's absolutely crazy at 53, but there you go. And so is Shane. And Steve, sorry. And so is Steve. And we doing the same course together.
Where is it? Because I don't think you live in the same area, do you?
It's in Halifax.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
we're
all driving.
Northwest Bolton. Where is he?
Yeah.
He's up there
I
somewhere,
think he is. Yeah. I'm Manchester, so yeah, we're not miles apart from each other. And sort of, he contacted me a while ago as well. He wanted to meet up on one of the jobs that I'm on, which I still need to organize. But he's a cracking bloke. He's such an interesting fella.
He is. So Steve's been helping me with the grout for helping me in the sense that he used it and then posted some things on social media and then give me loads of feedback. And what a lot of my customers don't realise, that from day one till now, everything that I'm good at now with regards to the product, so I can give people loads of advice. I've seen fucking everything. I can give them really good how-to guides. I know instantly if they've got an issue, what the issue is, without even looking at it. The only reason I know those things is because I've spent 3 years speaking to people like Steve, who were willing to use the product when we didn't really know what problems you might come across because nobody had used it before. So then they'd feed back to me. And none of them, to be fair to them, so you know when you get on social media, when people use something and they're not quite sure what's gone wrong, but they post it anyway and say, look at this, it's gone wrong and the product's crap. It's not. You just need to figure out what happened and make sure it doesn't happen again. So all those guys that were using it for me, early days, all that feedback. So Steve might have given me 5 bits of feedback, and then another guy might have given me 6, and then another guy 2, and another guy 1. But that means I'm learning fucking everything possible about the product and what could possibly go wrong with different tools and different ways of doing it. So that's 3 years that they've given me. So now I'll get people saying to me, oh, you know this inside out, you're brilliant. I'm not really. The tradesmen have given me all that information. And that's why I always say to people, when you get product reps, which is what I am, I suppose, I'm sure they're great and they're all good at the job, but every day of the week I would much prefer to listen to a group of tradesmen, whether it's one of your TikTok posts or a Facebook group, because between them they've literally got thousands of years experience. So you'll get some idiots, and you have to filter out the negative people who just fucking slag everything off. But if you read all the feedback, in there you've got thousands of years experience, whereas the rep, which is me, without that experience, because they've probably worked for another company before and they'll probably leave again next year and they don't really give a shit, all that experience is fucking way better than a rep. But what I do say to tradesmen is, so it's true, because a lot of the time tradesmen will say, well, I've got 20 years experience, I know more than you. And it's true to an extent, but sometimes you'll get people who say that who actually don't know what they're on about. But you just have to be careful. But what I do say to them is, all right, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, which I always do because it's generally true. You probably do know more than a rep. But when something goes wrong, don't flip it around on the rep and say, you're supposed to be the expert, why don't you know what's happening, blah, 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 this product shit. Because you need to do some problem solving and work with him and go, like, then find together what the problem is if you don't already know. So yeah, I don't know why we're talking about that, but yeah, it is a small world, mate. And
I think a lot of reps rely on the research that their company has done on their behalf, right? Which is, it's okay if it's a big company and they got a lot of money to throw at it and a lot of time to do all the research and everything like that. Whereas with you rely on tradesmen to do that research and to come back with feedback. And I think that's even better way to sort of research a product and establish if that product is good or not.
Yeah, I've got all the lab tests you could possibly want for everything,
but they're not realistic.
But it's a lab test. It gives you an idea that this is UV resistant somewhat. But then, all right, so that was in a lab test. Where you actually going to put it? Because in the UK, say, it could be no two jobs are the same. So what are you actually going to ask it to do? Yeah. Because in the lab, it was like these perfect conditions. So I'll always prefer feedback from real life.
Yeah, and I think it's really good.
A lot of people, a lot of tradesmen even are coming to me now, 3 years after originally speaking to me, to say, I've waited 3 years, or I've waited 2 years to see, because they know they're the same, so they don't really give a shit what your spec sheet says. I want to see it working for a couple of years, and then I'll have a go of it. So yeah, you're right. Yeah. But yeah, I've got all the lab tests you could possibly want, and they're great because it gives you an idea. Like, if it's been specified to do a specific thing, waterproof, whatever. Great, because you know it's somewhat waterproof because the lab says so. But then, for other things, real life is much better.
Absolutely true.
So yeah, small world. That's one of the reasons this podcast exists, mate. So I always say, like, the social media people. So I know Steve because of social media. I know you because of social media. And actually, without ever meeting, we all know each other a little bit through social media.
Even though we did meet at Plumbfest, but that was like...
Oh yeah. You've met Steve and me now, but yeah.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I always say is that the podcast, so I know you a little bit, and I know Steve a little bit. Some people don't even know people a little bit, but they know him from social media.
Yeah.
So people have seen you and they're like, he seems like a really nice guy. I like the stories that he tells and he's good at his job. But they don't really know you.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying they won't really get to know you from a podcast, but you've got the opportunity on a podcast to talk for as long as you want and say whatever you want. Whereas TikTok, if you started talking, like we've been going for 24 minutes now, somebody would have swiped past this 23 minutes ago. So at least on a podcast, the audience is expecting a longer form.
You know, Shane, I was really looking forward to this because for that specific reason. Everybody that sees my videos, they all just see the person behind the camera. And some of them will presume something. They will presume what I'm about and so on, and I'm not about that at all. So it's very different when how you come across on social media, and as this podcast gives me an opportunity to sort of just go a bit into depth. And I don't want to obviously go into too much depth, but it's always good to have that little bit of mystery type of thing. That's what I think. So to let it all out, I think it will be like afterwards people know the whole story. I'll be boring basically, so I'm not going to do that. But I think there's a lot of things people can sort of learn about me and this podcast. So hopefully it will come across good.
Yeah, and the big thing is that people can relate, right? So and this is so people will see other tradesmen on social media or whatever. And I think it's great, no matter what you do on social media. I absolutely love it, and that's why TikTok's my favourite one, because it's like, I've said this before, and I think it's true. It comes across to me as the closest that's the closest you're going to get to getting a genuine angle on that person. Everything else is a little bit like, Facebook is fucking weird. LinkedIn is total bullshit, all of it. So you're not getting a real person there. Instagram's, I don't know, I don't really hang around on Instagram, but it seems a little bit more magazine-y, so like nice pictures and whatever. I could be wrong, but TikTok, and I love it, no matter when people post videos, and I saw somebody the other day who I like, and he was taking the piss out of the way new tradesmen go on and make social media posts. And I usually like him. I've asked him to come on the podcast, but I didn't like what he did on that particular post. And I know he was only having a laugh, but he was basically taking the piss out of the way when someone's not very comfortable on the camera. And I'm like, well, they're not going to be, are they? Because they're fucking new. And that the way that you train on TikTok is just do it, and you get a little bit better each time. But because some of those people who are new and uncomfortable on camera at the moment will probably follow him, and now they've seen him taking a piss, they might not do it again. And that's the same to me as when you see people post the work on Facebook or whatever, and then people take the piss out of the work without understanding the story behind the job, and then that person never posts any work ever again because they're like, what's the point? You're all just going to zoom in and take the piss. That's exactly the same as what that bloke did. He's like, oh, this is what new. And I'm like, well, they're new. So surely, instead of taking the piss out of them because you're not new and you're actually very good, you would help them out and like tag them or join up with, I don't know, whatever the fuck you do on TikTok, whatever it's called, Stitch or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't like that, but I don't know, maybe I'll watch it again. It might not have been as bad as I thought.
Do you know what, Shane? I've been doing social media for quite a while, and I'm in no way the best out there. I think I wing it. I wing it on the filming, I wing it on the editing, and I wing it on everything else. But there's one thing I learned. When people start social media to start off with, there's this, and it happened to me. It happens to all of us, I think, personally. You get this false sense of security or this hype that you've got to show people how good you are and that you are better than what people think you are and so forth. So there's this transition that in the beginning, you're trying to show off so much that one of the ways is by sort of, I'm going to use the term putting others down, because that's essentially what you're doing. You're commenting on their work, or you're commenting on their skills, and you're going, well, I'm better than that, in a roundabout way. And then you sort of start to ride the wave, and you start realizing that actually we're all in the same boat here, right? And it's better actually to compliment people than to sort of diss people, because, you know, as much as you're going to diss people, they're going to diss you back at some point or another, and you're not going to like it. So when I started TikTok, which was quite late, that was one thing, because I've already been through that experience. And I thought to myself, it's not what I'm going to be about. I'm not going to comment on other people's work or put people down or anything like that. And I've done a few reaction videos and a few comment videos, but normally I've commented where people were dissing other people, or, you know. But I want to stay away from sort of, you know, commenting on other people's work and stuff like that. And I want to big people up rather than put them down. Yep. I think that's the way I want to try and do things.
I don't even think so. The only people who I'll gladly see shit talked about is actual cowboys who are like basically robbing people blind.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, if someone posts the work and it looks bad or whatever, or you think it looks bad, like, why would you publicly slag them off? You could. I've said this numerous times. It could be because you weren't fucking there. The customer wanted that, or he knows about it and is going to fix it, and the picture that he's posted is for a completely different reason, and you just happen to have zoomed in on the bit that he knows about and is going to fix. Do you know what I mean? But
I don't know. I feel that sometimes people do that because they're not happy with themselves or what they do, and to make it better, to make them feel better, for them it's easy enough to put someone else down, and they can't do it face to face. So online is an easy target, easy fix.
Yeah,
to put someone down.
I'm not a tradesman, right? But I'd never understand how tradesmen slag each other off, because you're all should be like. Imagine if you all supported each other. It'd be fucking amazing, because there's enough work for all of you. You're not stealing work off each other, so why are you slagging each other off? And like I say, unless you're a cowboy who deserves slagging off and deserves fucking everything they get, then why do they do it? Because you could be working together, making more money, helping each other out. It's crazy. Educating customers is weird.
Sometimes I feel that everybody is in it for themselves, and they don't like seeing someone else doing better than what they're doing. So, yeah, I don't get it. Honestly, that's one thing I don't get.
I don't get it at all, because even if they're doing the same thing as you, and let's say you're like, oh, fucking hell, I'm a bit jealous of him. Everybody gets jealous. There's no point saying you don't, but it doesn't matter. So you're really good at TikTok, right? I think so anyway.
Thank you very much.
If I started doing TikTok and you saw me getting better, I probably won't ever be that way. I'm just not that way inclined or not. But anyway, let's say I did. You wouldn't be like, oh, fuck, I'm going to unfollow him and I'm going to tell other people he's not very good or whatever. You wouldn't. You'd be like, brilliant, because you understand we're not going to steal from each other. Maybe some of my followers will become your followers. And I'm the same with podcasts. I've asked other people who do a podcast to come on mine. And I'll be honest, part of it is maybe some of their listeners will start listening to me. We're not stealing from each other. We're not on at the same time on a Monday. Do you know what I mean? It's just a big thing that we can all share. It's not like, I don't get it. I honestly don't get it. But like I say, I've mentioned it before. I think a lot of it's begrudgery. Because
it's a big thing, Shane. It is a massive thing. People don't understand how big it is. People don't understand how much rivalry there is out there. And you'll be the best friends with someone online, and secretly they'll be dissing you and disliking your videos and doing everything possible to give you as much hate and least exposure as possible. And I don't get it.
No.
I did a live once with a lad on a different niche. And when he started out, he came to me, he says, listen, I've never done videos, I've never done YouTube, I've never done this, but I'd like to learn and I'd like to get started. Can you help me? And I said, of course I can. And I helped him. And within 3 months, he had more subscribers than me. And I was absolutely over the moon. I felt really, really proud about it. And we did a live and we were talking on the live and so forth. And I ended the live. Oh no, he ended the live. He thought he ended the live. And he had his missus next to him. And the minute he thought he ended the live, he turned around to her and he started, I don't know if I can swear on you.
Do whatever you want, mate.
But basically, he went, fucking bastard. I can't stand him. His profile name, that's something I should have. And he thinks so much of himself and blah, blah, blah. And I'm going, hang on there, what the heck is going on here? And I sort of said, excuse me, mate, you know we're still live. And he went, oh my God, I was talking about someone else and I was this and I was that. And about 2 months later, because I thought to myself, this is ridiculous. 2 months later, he phoned me up and he says, look, mate, I've got to apologize. I've got to say sorry. I'm going to put up a post publicly apologizing and saying what I've done and whatever and this and that. I said, look, you don't have to. You do what you want to do, mate. It's okay. Forget about it. And he put up this post basically dissing himself and telling people how wrong he was and everything like that. And what happened? He got thousands of views on that post and people were going, oh, you know what? It's good that you're a big man for coming out and apologizing and this and that. So he still got all the credibility in any case.
Yeah.
So,
well, the drama's better. The drama is miles better than being nice.
Absolutely.
If you want social media, create some drama, you'll get loads of followers.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I haven't asked you a question yet, mate.
Right.
So if we start, I don't really ask questions, I suppose, but if we start, you give us a brief explanation of who you are and what you do on a day to day, and then we'll get to the meat of what you actually do later on.
Okay. Right. Who am I and what I am and what I do? Right. I'm a multi-skilled tradesman. I basically do everything. Some of it, a lot of it is self-taught. A lot of it is stuff that I picked up along the years because I was really interested. And some of it because I didn't have a choice. I had to learn it. And that's what I do. So I do about everything. The only difference with me is that, or the only difference to what I do is that I do have a few qualifications behind me. And when I'm really interested in something and I feel that I've got to qualify, I will go out of my way to study and go on a course or something like that to qualify as that. So a lot of people tend to think that I'm just a DIYer, self-taught or whatever, which is not actually the case because I qualified as an electrician. I think it was about 2000, 2003, I think, something like that. I qualified as a DA assessor just before the first lockdown. So that's energy performing assessor for properties. And I'm doing my gas now, and I'm a qualified joiner by trade and cabinet maker.
And your company's called SRV?
SRV Group, yeah.
And that's what you're called on TikTok as well?
That's what I'm called on TikTok as well, yeah.
What areas do you cover?
Shane,
where are you based?
Manchester.
Okay.
And I like to say that I will only cover the greater Manchester, but I don't. I travel to London sometimes. I go to Bridlington, North Wales. Yeah, so I do travel, but depends on the work and who it's for and so on. But I do travel.
What's your main thing? And I prefer multi-skilled, mainly because when you're here, I can ask you to do everything else as well. But as long as they're good, like. But have you got a main one, or do you just kind of pick up whatever work?
Right, I do mainly property maintenance. I do a lot of property maintenance, so the aspect of my work is quite wide that I do. I can be fixing cabinets one day and doing carpets the next, or painting, or plumbing, all sorts. Internal and external, I can be doing landscape sometimes, or fixing a brick wall, or whatever. Just anything and everything that needs to be done. That's what I do.
We'll get to sorry, go on.
My preference is two things. It's plumbing and joinery, but I like to work with solid wood. I would say that is my preference. Yeah.
Cool. So we'll get to how you advertise and who books you for work and stuff, but we'll just rewind a little bit first. So you told me earlier your name's Portuguese.
It is.
So I presume you grew up in Portugal. Yes? No?
No, I didn't.
Okay. So where did you grow up?
Right. So I was born in Mozambique. And from Mozambique, when independence came, we went to Rhodesia, which was called that at the time. And from Rhodesia, we went to Portugal. And I grew up in Portugal.
Some people might want to know what Rhodesia is in South Africa.
Right, Rhodesia is now, I think, Zimbabwe, is it?
Yep.
Yeah, Zimbabwe. So it used to be the former name for was Rhodesia, which is gained its independence as well. So that's Zimbabwe. So basically, when it came to independence, we had to flee Mozambique, and we went into Rhodesia, and then independence came in Rhodesia, and the transition wasn't amazing. I was only very young, so I didn't know about everything, but it wasn't really amazing, so we had to leave Rhodesia, and that's when we went to Portugal.
Okay, so go back again. So why did you have to leave Mozambique?
Right, basically we had to leave Mozambique because there was a kind of unrest and civil war, because Mozambique used to belong to Portugal, and then it gained its independence, but the transition wasn't a peaceful transition at all. So there was a lot of war involved. I mean, my earliest memory from Mozambique was holding onto my dad's trousers, watching aeroplanes dropping bombs at about 5 years old.
Really?
Yeah. I can remember me and my mother.
Who was
and my
dropping
brother,
the bombs? Who was bombing?
Shane, I think it was the current government fighting against. Yeah, the current government, the government at the time fighting against the transition of independence, nearly like South Africa, and it was like a civil war basically. So you used the terrorism. They used to call them terrorists, obviously, but yeah, it was the freedom fighters trying to gain back their country. So that was a transition, and so I've got very fond memories of hugging my mother and my brother in a stainless steel bath or cast iron bath with bullets shattering against a tiled wall. So yeah.
So that's why you left there.
Yeah, that's why we left Mozambique.
Where's Rhodesia in respect to Mozambique?
So Rhodesia is not far from Mozambique. It's Southwest Africa, but it's like on the eastern side of Africa, so southeast, I would say. Yeah.
How did you get there?
We actually flew in a small aeroplane that that actually we had a slight hiccup and crashed. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You were just going to leave that out to your story? I've had to
Oh man,
pull
I
that
was
away.
very young. I was very young, Shane.
Bloody hell.
Basically, when we left, we couldn't take anything, so everything got left behind. Everything, all my dad's cars, his business, everything got left. So it was overnight thing. From one day to the other, we just packed what we could, and we sort of had to flee the country. And we went into a small little airport, and we got on a plane. And me and my brother didn't know what was going on. We thought maybe we were going on holiday or something like that. I don't know. And off we went and went to Rhodesia. Now we had these action men. I don't know if you remember the old action men dolls.
Yeah.
Right. My brother and I had a collection of about 4 or 6 action men, and we were very fond of these. So these action men was something that would have to go with us regardless of what happened. But the night before, my father took them off us, and we didn't understand why. So we spent nearly all night crying because my father took the action men off us. And the next morning, he gave it back to us, and we sort of bundled us in the car, and off we went and got onto this plane and went to Rhodesia, and one of the bloody tires or something like that didn't open up properly, and we sort of had a forced landing or whatever. But we made it. Everything was fine. And I later found out, much later, found out why my dad actually took the action men off us. So my father had a quite big collection of tourmaline and aquamarine stones, which are semi-precious or something like that. And he actually stuffed all the action men with all these stones because that's the only thing he could get out, money-wise, value-wise. And when he got to Rhodesia, he traded that all in so that we could get established and get a house, and until he found a job and stuff like that.
Wow.
So yeah.
That's really sad, but it's really fucking cool as well.
In a way.
It is though, isn't it? Because it's Rhodesia. It doesn't exist anymore.
No,
so
it doesn't.
I learned about Rhodesia when I watched that film Blood Diamond. I was like, what are they on about? So I kind of knew the word, but I didn't know what they were referring to, so I read a little bit about it then. But if you think about it, your dad's like sneaking precious stones inside toys. And gonna find someone in Rhodesia that'll buy them off him. That's cool. It's sad. It's really sad, but it's cool.
Yeah, the funny part is when I think it was Salisbury that we went to. So when we went to Rhodesia, the only work available in Rhodesia was actually the mines, and my father ended up working in the mines.
Wow.
But I think he only ended up working for about a year or 2 years in Rhodesia, and then he said, "Right, okay, you guys are going to stay here. It's starting to become very unstable, and before it gets too bad, we're going to go to Portugal. But you guys stay here, carry on with the school and so on." And we had an Alsatian called Kimber, which used to guard us every night. And I'm going to go off to Portugal. I'm going to go to Portugal, and I'm going to establish a life there that we can all join up once I've got something established, and you guys can fly out and join me. And for one or other reason, my mother agreed to it. You know, that's it. She stayed alone with 2 little kids for the best part of 2 years. And in those 2 years, I think we must have had about, I don't know, 3 or 4 times contact with my father. And I'll never forget the one day that, because we didn't have a phone at home, you had to go to the payphone, right? So when you made a phone call, you had to wait. You had to sort of, how did it work? It had a lever on the side which you had to twist very fast, and then you pick up the phone and you get the exchange, and then the exchange go, "Hello, how can I help you?" And you go, "Oh, can I have extension number 213 or whatever to Portugal? And this is the number." And then you got to wait an hour for the exchange to sort of connect you, and it's a bad line, and so it was very difficult to sort of make phone calls or receive phone calls or contact. So we heard, I don't know how it was, but my dad was going to call on a certain day. So he was going to phone us. So we sort of had to get ready for this phone call. And I'll never forget that I spent hours on end trimming my hair and combing my hair and wearing the best clothes because I'm going to have a phone call with my father because he's in Portugal. And it's like, obviously, it's a phone call, that's it. And we ended up waiting for hours at this little booth for my father to call. And eventually we got through. And my mom must have had like a 2-minute conversation with him, and that was about it. And that was just him saying, okay, I'm organizing the tickets for you guys to come to Portugal. And that was it. That, we were going to go to Portugal. And that was the last conversation I had with my father in Rhodesia. And a few days later, our bags were packed and we flew out to Portugal.
So were you like Portuguese national? So you have a Portuguese passport or something?
Yes, because I was born in Mozambique, I'm automatically Portuguese because Portuguese used to belong, Mozambique used to belong to Portugal.
Yeah.
My father's Portuguese. My mother is South African, but obviously because of the marriage and everything like that, yeah, we were automatically registered as Portuguese.
Cool.
Well, I was. My brother wasn't. My brother was registered as South African.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I love South African accent. By far my favourite accent. By a mile.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know,
I just mentioned the film Blood Diamond. So when that was released, good film. So when that was released, I was working in a cinema. I was at university, I was working in a cinema, so I've probably seen it loads of times, just be cleaning the screens and all that crap. And I thought then, like, it's really good. Leonardo DiCaprio plays a good role, blah, blah, blah. And so one of the girls come down from cleaning the screen and she's like, it's all right. Leonardo DiCaprio's English accent's absolutely rubbish, though. That's like, you've totally misunderstood the fucking film. Or did you listen to anything they were saying? Like, did you really know where they were? So yeah.
Well, to be honest with you, South African accent was shit as well, mate.
Yeah, you can comment on that though. So
yeah, I try and hide my accent.
I love it, mate. I had a postman come the other week, and you don't really hear South African accents in this country that much. And he was South African. I was like, wow. And he was like, what, my bro, you got a parcel? I was like, bloody hell, where are you from? I love it.
We got a local butcher's, and whenever we go to him to go and get some biltong or something like that, I start speaking, and I can hear myself. Yo, man, my South African starts coming out now, and I start like proper speaking South African now, bro.
Yeah, I love it. I've been to watch this. There's a band called The Antwoord, and I've been to watch them live. They're really good, but I don't know. They're going some scandal lately, so I won't talk about them too much. I don't really know the story, but I used to love them, and I went to watch them, and they talk about their accent, and they're like, yeah, it's really harsh. And I was like, it's a fucking brilliant accent. I love it. I don't know why people don't.
I don't know. For me, there's a love-hate relationship with the accent and with the Afrikaans culture and language and so on. So there is a bit of a sort of love and hate about it. I mean, I sort of learned that you take the worst that happens to you in life and you sort of turn it to make yourself better, and it shapes the person you are. But there's always that element of, now, do I really want to sound South African? I'm not too sure I do, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's. I would if I were you, but obviously I'm not you. I mean, I would if I was me, actually, but not if I was you, because I don't know the history and all the rest of it. But yeah, so Rhodesia. So you're in Rhodesia for a couple of years, while your dad was sorting something out in Portugal. Mm-hmm. How old were you when you went to Portugal?
I would say around about 7. Yeah, around about 7.
It's a terrible age to be going through a load of changes.
Oh, Shane, yeah. I mean, I think I spent most of my life traveling from pillar to post anyway, because my father was a civil engineer and he went where the work was. So basically, even in Mozambique, we used to travel a lot depending where the work was. And sometimes we used to live right out in the bush, because that's where he was building the roads. And, we weren't like living in a comfortable 3-bedroom house in the middle of a city center or something like that. So we were always everywhere. I mean, the bush was my backyard, my playing zone most of the time, you know. Yeah.
So, whereabouts in Portugal?
Oh, right. Okay. So basically, we lived in Lisbon, and when we first went, we ended up in Lisbon, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, if I can recollect. And then we moved up north, and we went to Villarreal, Mirandela, Chaves. Traveled a lot in Portugal as well because we obviously went to where the work was. So we didn't have like a house that we called our house. We were forever going from town to town, like, because that's where the work was.
So, school. You went to school in Portugal.
Yeah, I did. So I went to junior school, which those days, if the little memories I've got from school in Portugal was it was half day school. So I'd start in the morning, finish 1 o'clock, because we used to have school in the morning, school in the afternoon, and different classes because the schools weren't big. So obviously there was so many children that could only be fitted in the class. So obviously they had morning class and afternoon class, and that's how it was structured. So by the age of about 10, 11 years old, I was going to school in the morning and working in the afternoon.
Working on like a job.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So basically, my earliest memory of my first job I got was making smoked sausages with a lady. She used to have a tiny little factory where she used to make smoked sausages. So I used to go there and sort of help her make these smoked sausages, and I used to get paid for it. And I absolutely loved it. Right. And then my second memory was this guy that used to manufacture gates. These sort of, it's not wrought iron, but sort of intricate gates with little twirls and twists and stuff like that, shapes and stuff. And every afternoon I used to go into his little factory, and I used to make all those shapes and so on. And I think by the age of about 11 or 12, yeah, I was quite handy with the welding machine.
I think that would be a good idea for now, for kids.
Yeah.
Do half a day school and half a day something else.
Yeah,
Anything
I think
else?
it would actually.
School's bullshit, mate, honestly. I've been through it before in other episodes, but unless you're very academic, it's total bollocks. It's like pointless even. But as long as you can read and write.
I don't know why, but I'll have to agree with you. I mean, school teaches you how to become, part of the system, but not how to survive the system, type of thing. That's a whole different.
Yeah. I've like I said, I've mentioned it before, but school's tailored for a certain average student, and none of them are that student who go there. So you've got some who are very academic, and they might be held back because the average that the the school's aiming at isn't for them. And then some who are not academic at all, and probably shouldn't even be there. They should be off learning something else that suits them. The average that is aimed at doesn't suit them either, because then they're not at that level. So it doesn't suit anyone, apart from maybe anyone that's average and sits in the middle. But even then, it's just like, they just learn how to get through it. Is it really benefiting them? They can read, they can write. And in the end, if you've got a really good memory, you might do well at exams, and then that's assumed that you're good at then. But is it really? Because there might be someone who hasn't got such a good memory who could have been a shit hot welder or whatever. But we don't know.
Exactly. Not everybody's academic. Yeah. If I would say, if there's something I would change in the school system in the UK, I mean, that would be immediately. Yeah. I think every single school, it should be compulsory to do an outdoor class. take the kids outdoors, teach them about nature, teach them about the values of nature and everything like that. Because you know what? As soon as you can't respect yourself until you respect the environment you live in. That's what I think.
Yeah.
And you can't respect the environment unless you understand what environment has to offer for you.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right, mate. I agree. It's a shame. Schools are weird, I'm telling you.
It is.
I think they're worse than ever. My missus is a teacher, by the way. But, so I kind of, a lot of her family are teachers as well, but, so I kind of, I can see what's going on.
You. I mean, all my kids, they were right academically, but I don't see the value that they've got now. I don't see that being instilled by their scholarships or by school or anything like that.
Oh, no.
You know, I think most of the values that my kids has got, and my daughter, for example, my eldest daughter, she's very successful. And I think her work ethics was instilled by us as parents.
Yeah.
You know, because she started working when she was 14, you know, part-time jobs. And, you know, she's quite successful. And I don't give credit to her university degree because she didn't follow that through. She got her degree, but she's not working in that field that she's got a degree in.
Yeah.
So yeah, she made it happen for herself.
It's rare that people do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think school-wise, it was done years ago. This was, and I've mentioned it before on a podcast. Was it a study or like a test? And they did it in America. Might have been an African guy that ran it, the project, but they did it in America. And they did. So bear in mind, this is years and years before COVID and the fact when everybody was forced to accept remote learning, remote everything. So he did remote learning, and at the time it was like crazy. So this is years and years ago. And he was like, no, what we'll do is, so the kids still go to school and do the basics, like the fundamentals that everyone should do. But we'll speak to them on a one-on-one remotely. And then we'll tailor each kid gets their own tailored curriculum. And he was criticised at the time because they were like, well, that's not possible. You won't have enough teachers to do it. It'll take too long. And he proved every single thing that they threw at him, he proved it wrong. Because it was remote and one teacher could look after multiple kids. Mm-hmm. The kids that went through it all did better than what they were doing before. They kind of chose kids that weren't doing so well at school, and all of them did better. And it's not really a fucking surprise, is it? It was because they were getting more one-on-one attention. And I think that's what we should do now, get some experts to look after kids in that way. And if kids should be in school because they're very academic, you carry on with the normal curriculum because that suits you. But you, Alex, do you want to go and work for Dave Smith Welders every fucking Thursday? Just see if you like it or not. Because we think you might. And if you don't, say, all right, do you want to try the mechanics or whatever? And then see if we can get kids finishing school with those type of skills, because they're coming out of school with nothing. And like you've just said, your daughter, I bet when you finish school, nobody knows. They're like, well, what am I going to do now? I've got a good memory, so I got good GCSE results. They're not even called GCSEs anymore. So that means I can go to college and do something, because I'm clever now. So they're being told that they're clever because they had a good memory and they could remember answers on tests. And then they go to university, and like you've just said, same as everybody, apart from doctors and maybe teachers or whatever you do at university, you don't get a job in it. University's more to prove that you've got a sharp mind and you can mingle with other people in a different city maybe and things like that and get some experience. But at fucking $9,000 a year, I don't know if I'd want to do it now.
I know.
And that's just for your fees. Never mind living there. It's ridiculous.
You know, Shane, my son, for example, when he was in school, I mean, you know, when he was nearly finished, he had no clue what he wanted to do with his life, right? but it's only the fact that I got him a job at a roofing company, a really, really big roofing company, and they're quite big on social media as well. And I got him a job there. And he ended up doing all the graphic designs from the age of 13, 14. He ended up looking after all the graphic designs and everything like that. He did the logos, he did the all the promo stuff, their certification. He's the one that designed all the certification, and everything like that. And when he turned around and says, "Look, I'm going to uni," they said, "Look, we got branches in London. Would you go work for them? And then after uni, we want you to come and work for us full time." And he didn't take it on. But that's what he went to uni for his graphic design. And I think it's only because he had the physical experience of doing it that he he's very good at it, and he found something he's really interested in, and that's what he's going to learn at.
Yeah.
When my daughter didn't have that opportunity,
Yeah, I think it's good to go when you're older, university. I went when I was older, but there was no plan behind it. I was an engineer and I didn't want to do it anymore, basically. So I went to do another university course, and I was 24, which is a little bit older, really. I think, how old are they? Usually 18.
Yeah, around about 18. But then you got a different expectation of uni. It's like 2 years or 3 years of pissing about and having a good time, isn't it?
Yeah, but for $9,000 a year, that used to be fine because you're learning other skills.
Yeah.
Like communication and meeting people from other countries and respecting people from other religions and things like that, because you've gone to live in a city where you might be from a small town or something. But now for fucking $9,000 a year, is it really worth it? Because you could, multiple people who I follow on social media, very clever people, have said you can learn, if you're willing, you can learn it without paying $9,000 a year. They're not really teaching you that much, really. Why the fuck is it $9,000 a year, by the way? It's like, I think when I was there, it was $3,000 a year, but I was classed as a mature student because I was 24, and I'd already paid tax for 6 years, and I got various benefits, so I didn't have to pay it all. But even then it was $3,000 a year. I was like, fucking hell. But now it's $9,000 a year. It's like, I don't know how they can justify it, because what that $9,000 a year covers, you going into a building and sitting in a lecture.
Yeah, but then you still got all your expenses, because you got your food, you got your accommodation to pay for, and everything else.
Yeah, the $9,000 barely covers. I don't know what the $9,000's for. The lecturer's on a salary if he's got, I don't know, whatever he's on or she's on.
Well, come on, $9,000 to spend months on end on TeamViewer because the universities are locked down. Now that's even worse, Shane.
Yeah, that's
right. And that's what my daughter went through.
Really? So she was doing like remote.
She didn't even spend a quarter of a last university year in university because of lockdown. So they were supposed to be doing team viewers, and she only did like a few sessions a month or whatever.
Did they still charge him $9,000 a year?
Yeah,
Jesus. Do you know what? I could be wrong, right? And sometimes I make statements. It's just my opinion, and I don't mind being told I'm wrong. But I'd love someone to justify why the fuck it's $9,000 a year for going into a lecture, and that's it. And then, because everything else, because you're an older person, you're an adult, it's up to you if you do the work and hand it in and all the rest of it. And I know there's costs related to libraries and whatever else they put on, but $9,000 per student per year, I'd love someone to justify it to me and say this is why, because I don't think they can.
Well, I think there's online universities that, you can pretty much get a lot of courses for totally free, or you pay a minimum sum to do a full course. But unfortunately, I think you're paying more for, if you're going to Harvard University or something like that, you're paying for the name, aren't you? You're paying, I went to Harvard, or I went to this university. You're paying for the name. And when it goes on your resume and you go look for a job, what uni did you go to? Well, we don't know that uni.
You know what it is with that, though? That's a different world. Me and you don't know that world. So people who can afford that, talked about this before as well. So people who can afford, I don't know, stupid money for universities, they're the same kind of people who are more likely to get a good job anyway, even if they didn't get. And they'll say, "Oh, it's because I went to Harvard." It's not. It's because you're lucky enough, and it's nothing. It's not their fault. You're lucky enough to live within a family that works or socializes in the right circles. So you were always going to get that opportunity, whether you went to Harvard or not.
Yeah, it's a class thing,
But saying that Harvard isn't available to most people who aren't in that class anyway, and it is a class thing. You're right. And to be honest,
absolutely,
the way that universities going, even the so-called not as good universities, they might be outpricing. So that might only be for rich people now as well. Even the poor university, well, not poor, but not as highly thought of universities. So they're outpricing poorer people from even what they would consider the lower end of the market for universities. It's ridiculous.
It's sad. It is sad. I think everybody should have equal opportunity to get a good education, and they should all have a shot at it, and a shot to be able to have a good job at the end of it, not just because of who you are or who your family is, because I know that there's people out there that's got a job, not because they're clever at it, just because of mommy and daddy and their bloodline.
Yeah. I think it's a lot to do with aspirations and obviously connections. You know someone who knows someone who's going to get your kid a job, and they can probably go and work for free because you can afford to fucking look after them while they're in London working on a scholarship or whatever. I was offered a job after uni in London with Sky, so anyone that finished our course was offered a job. And I couldn't go. I think it was 26 grand, which is fair enough, because you don't know what the fuck you're doing. You're basically a trainee. But I couldn't afford to live there then. That was in 2007. It wasn't possible to do. I couldn't find anywhere to live in London on 26 grand and do it. Even shared accommodation and things like that. So I just couldn't do it. Even if you tried to live close and commute, I still couldn't do it because I couldn't afford to travel then. So there was a different reason why I didn't go, to be fair, but it wasn't doable. So, but the people who grow up in the families where they're like, yeah, you go, you get 26 grand, that's yours. I'll pay your rent. I'll pay your trap, whatever. And then that person's fine because the privilege, it's not their fault. I don't particularly like having to go at people like that, but they get more opportunity, and they'll also have higher aspirations for themselves growing up because they'll see their mum and dad, their brother, their uncle, whatever, being successful. So by the time they're 20, they'll probably have the same aspirations and same confidence levels as someone with a different upbringing wouldn't get that until they're 30.
Completely.
A 10-year gap in confidence levels.
I completely agree with you, Shane. I mean, the one thing is, it is not their fault. It is the system's fault. It's the way the system in society is all about. And I think it's wrong. Obviously, a lot of people in that position, they don't see reality. They don't see what normal people, I would say normal people, that sounds really bad as well, but, normal people that are working to survive every day of their lives, they don't understand, they don't comprehend the struggles because they don't need to comprehend the struggles. They got everything set out for them.
They'll never get it, mate.
No. Absolutely not.
Portugal. So you went to high school in Portugal. You said, were you 12 when you were doing that half day? Did you do that until you left?
No, that was junior school, not high school.
All right, okay.
Junior school, yeah. So yeah, half day.
And then did you finish school in Portugal?
No, because we moved. Right, so towards the end of our stay in Portugal, my father was asked to undertake a quite a difficult contract, which was actually to extend the airport of Madeira, which also belongs to Portugal. It's a Portuguese island. And he took the contract on. I think it was about 3 or 4 year contract or something like that. So he took the job on because prior to that, there was quite a few, even though it was still classed as a very dangerous airport, it was extremely dangerous then. And quite a few airplanes came off the airport runway because it was way too short. And my father took on the project to extend the runway. So he did one of the first extension of that runway. So off we went, packed our bags, and we're going to Madeira. So that's where we went. And Madeira also had half day schools. And I can remember that I used to go to a very tiny school. It was very small. My memories of Madeira are very sort of vague. I can't remember a lot. There's certain memories I can, but obviously school memories I can't remember that much. But Madeira is a very hilly place, and I used to walk to school every day, and in the mornings, and then in the afternoons when I was supposed to go home, I didn't. I used to go piss about on the beach. I used to go do rock diving, so diving from the rocks, and because it's a very touristy place, that's how I used to make my money. I used to get the tourists to throw coins or items into the ocean, and I used to dive down and go and collect them and come back up again, and they'll give me a few pennies and whatever, and I used to make my money that way. Yeah.
You said you can't remember much about the school. Did you like the school? Can you remember it, or did...
Shane, as we go along in our conversation today, you'll sort of get the gist that I never did like school, regardless if it was in Madeira or South Africa.
So I've got this theory. I need to read about it. I'm sure someone's written about it, because I had a bad time at school for the most part. Hated it. And I can't really remember. I went to 3 different high schools as well, probably similar to you. And I can't really remember much. I can't remember teachers' names or things that happened. I've got friends now, and they can recall specific things that happened at school or teachers' names. And I always had this theory. I'm like, I had too much going on, that I was not happy while I was there. Other things were taking my attention, or my mind was fogged with other things, and it just doesn't remember, because I was having such a bad experience. It's blocked it all out, like school, and there was nothing particularly bad, but as a child, you're not happy. I think it's blocked it all out, whereas my mates might have been comfortable with everything, because they were secure, never moved house, always went to the same school. They can pull out information. I'm like, how the fuck do you remember that? I can't even remember the teacher's name. And you're pulling out a bit of information of something specific that happened in class. I haven't got a clue. But that's my theory anyway. It's if you're happy, you'll remember it more. And if you're not, your brain's nah, fuck this. I'm not saving this as a memory. It's crap.
It's funny because my memory of school in Portugal, in Madeira, is sort of pockets of memory that I can remember, right? But my memories from Namibia, for example, and when I went to school in Namibia, that I can remember quite clearly, most of it. Most of my school days I can remember quite clear. And partially there's reason for that. But in Portugal and Madeira, it's sort of, I think I spent more time doing what I loved doing instead of concentrating in school. Maybe that's one of the reasons,
Yeah.
Madeira was an amazing time in my life. Amazing time, but also, that it was in Namibia. Well, I must have been about 12, I think. Me and my brother were in bed, and my father came in and says, "I got something to tell you." And right, okay, go on then. You got a brother? You got a brother and 2 sisters? And I'm like, what? Yeah. So, that was the place where we discovered that me and my brother weren't the only brothers.
Wow.
We had a brother and 2 sisters that we've never met. And he says, well, your brother's actually coming to Madeira, he's coming to work here, and all of a sudden we had like an older brother, and he was going to come work with my father, and an older sister, and she was going to come work with my father. And so there was so much going on in my life that I think school just did not take the priority. I mean,
Yeah.
for me, it was art and enjoying Madeira as an island. For me was, that took priority. My artwork, and then that, yeah.
Yeah. You just blanked out the stuff that you weren't bothered about at the time.
Mm.
Maybe that's just me as well. Wasn't
Maybe.
bothered about it. You mentioned Namibia.
Yeah.
What ages was that? So Madeira was high school?
No, that was junior school as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And then was
junior.
So was Namibia later on?
Yes, Namibia was later, because when my father finished the contract in Madeira, he then undertook some other small projects. So we end up staying in Madeira, I don't know, a couple of years. But in between that, we went to an island called Porto Santo, where my dad took like nearly a year off to just chill, relax, and regather himself or whatever. And we lived in a little house right in front of the beach. We didn't go to school. I can't recollect. No, we didn't go to school. So we took nearly a year out of school to just go and play on the beach and make model houses out of matchsticks and stuff like that.
Great.
It was just amazing. Yeah. And then from there we went to Namibia. Yeah. That was it.
And is that where you went to high school?
No, well, when we went to Namibia, because my schooling was so messed up, and I went from Portuguese school to English school, I was put back a few years.
Yeah.
Right, because obviously my English language and so on. So I was but my brother and I were put back a few years. And I think I did about 2 years in junior school once again, and that was full time, and it was a very big culture shock because I was never used to it. And in Portugal they never had the cane, God's sake, and now I'm getting the cane nearly every bloody day, and plus I'm stuck in a bloody hostel, so I don't have a home anymore. My mother and my dad put me in a hostel. And I couldn't comprehend it at the time. So, yeah.
Why?
Because when we went to Namibia, my father got, obviously, once again, he got the contracts he got was up in the north to do the roads. And Namibia, which was at the time was Southwest Africa, believe it or not, wasn't Namibia. So Southwest Africa had the same issues as Mozambique and as Rhodesia. It was sort of going through the transition of becoming, how do you say, free, whatever you call it. Well, I said it before, I've got a mind block. So basically, Southwest Africa was part of South Africa, right? And it was an apartheid state, and basically they wanted their independence and they wanted their country back. So we were sort of slowly getting back into that transition. Now, in the north of Southwest Africa, that's where most of the war was, because that was close to Angola, and the rebels used to come from Angola and sort of fight and so on. So where we used to be in Windhoek, for example, where we used to go to school in Windhoek, there was the odd, every now and then, the odd bombing, the odd attack, but it wasn't as bad as the north. So because my parents were in the north, there wasn't schools up there. So we basically stayed in the hostel, boarding school, basically. That's what it was.
I bet that was fun. So you've gone from half a days and then going on the beach, or even not even going to school at all and going on the beach, to
Boarding school.
Boarding school.
Yeah, with canes.
Lovely. And is that where you finished school, at the boarding school?
No, because the boarding school was junior school. So basically, once we completed that, I went to a high school.
Yeah, you said
Now,
you had to go back.
The high school was a technical school, a very well-known technical school in Southwest Africa, which basically what it was is this technical school was more to prepare you for the army than anything else, because everything was sort of based on the whole education was based around engineering and practical and gunsmithing and you know motor mechanics and welding, boiler making, and technical drawings and architectural. So it was all based on that. And then we used to have cadets every single day, and we used to have target shooting every 2 days.
Really?
Yeah. There was a big thing. We used to have to do target shooting. So it was like basically preparing you for the army.
Did they have national? What's it called? National service.
National service.
Did you have that?
No, I escaped it in a way.
But it was a thing.
It was a thing,
and that's what I guess that's what them schools are for. Then, wasn't it? Just
yeah, we used to go on 2 survival courses every year.
Wow.
Every year we had to do 2 survival courses.
Is it still a thing now?
I don't think it is. No, I don't think it is. No,
they felt the need to. We need to create some soldiers. What for?
It was.
Why creating soldiers?
The regime around the whole school was very much. I can't explain it for people to understand it, to be honest with you. But it was like you were in the army. The rooms were like barracks. The whole structure was like, for example, if you went to eat and you done something wrong, you weren't standing in the queue in the right place at the right spot in the right manner, then you'd be pulled out of the queue, beaten up, and then told to do 100 push-ups. And you can't do 100 push-ups, you get kicked until you can do 100 push-ups. So that's like a really military regime, not one that we know now, but in those days that's how it was. Yeah.
Wow. And that was your high school?
Oh, it was high school. I loved high school. Yeah, I loved it. Loved it. We were the only high school in the whole of Southwest Africa and South Africa that actually had a smoking room. And you had to have a smoking room license. So you had to do a theory and a practical to get your smoking room license. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What? Go through that for me.
Yeah.
Explain that one.
So, right. At the boarding school, you were not allowed to smoke anywhere. Obviously, it's a school, you're not allowed to smoke.
Yeah.
But there was one room which was right next to the boiler room, which we'll go into that later. But there was one room was a smoking room. And if you had special permission and you had a license, you could then go and smoke in that room. So every morning, every afternoon, every break, every time you can, when you're not in school, you're allowed to go to the smoking room and you sit there and you smoke. That's how it was. But the discouragement side of it was that you had to have a smoking license. And that smoking license was not easy to obtain. Right? It consisted of about 4 liters of really salt water and about 6 to 8 packets of cigarettes that you had to provide and buy. And you'd stand in the rugby field. And I'll never forget it because I'd done it and I passed it. And you had to put about 10 cigarettes in your mouth, chew them, drink salt water, smoke 2 cigarettes continuously non-stop without holding them in your lips, and then run around the rugby field twice until you threw up everything and you went green in the face, and the whole process started again. And if you completed that, then you had your practical smoke license, and then you needed your theory one, which was a letter from your parents to say that they approved for you to smoke in school, which we falsified, and we got it in any case because
What
that
the
was the thing.
fuck? I've never heard anything like that before, mate.
Well,
so they tried to traumatize you. I suppose they were hoping that you would just never want another cigarette ever again.
Yeah, a lot of people went. A lot of people did go down that route. A lot of people couldn't stomach another cigarette after doing that, because I guarantee you, it's not pleasant one bit.
Yeah,
not at all.
I've seen that. There's a version of that for the UK which you might have heard of, which I doubt. I don't even think it fucking works. It's just cruel. So parents, if they caught you smoking when you were younger, would make you eat a pack. Have you ever heard of that? As like a punishment.
No.
And I think the thinking behind it was they make you eat the cigarettes because then like you probably never. But I don't even know if that works. What you've just explained to me. Well, yeah, exactly. You've just explained to me like they're basically the people who could do that. It's like a Marine type test. Let's see who can do this, and the ones that can do it, they'd be fucking brilliant Marines, and we'll let them smoke.
I think, Shane, I think this little story is probably one of the most mildest parts of my life in school.
It's crazy, mate. I've never heard anything like that in my life. I'm going to read about it. I'm going to see if I can find something on that after.
Yeah.
That's fucking nuts. So you left school there. You finished school there, and I presume went to the army. Is that what they were warming you up for?
No, I didn't go to the army.
Oh yeah, you said you avoided it, didn't you? So what did you do when you left school then?
I actually left school before I completed school, Shane. Because my time in school was very, very traumatic. Very, very traumatic. I had one friend that committed suicide. We were bullied really badly because we were Portuguese. There was only I think in total 3 Portuguese in the whole school, and the school was an Afrikaans school. So we were extremely bullied. There was three Portuguese and about 4 British guys. And we were all bullied to the extent that we used to sometimes end up in sick bay. I mean, my friend's ribs were broken about 3 times. And it was extreme. It was extreme to say the least. But it sort of made us very tough. Very, very tough. So I left school beforehand because one of the teachers, which was the woodwork teacher, he liked us a lot. He took a liking for me, my brother, and 2 of the other guys. And he sort of tried to stick up for us as much as possible. But he ended up losing his job because he didn't see the way the school was doing things was right. So he ended up losing his job, and he opened up a woodwork company. And one day out of the blue, he came to see us, and he says, look, I would like you guys to come and work for me and then do your apprenticeship through college. And that's the route we took. We left school.
Apprenticeship in woodwork?
Yeah.
What was it like there? What was an apprenticeship consist of in that country?
It was good. I mean, it was harsh, Obviously, you had to be a certain type of... You had to be very dedicated because, we were only young. We didn't have money. We were 9 people living in one house in the middle of nowhere. And we had to walk to college every day and then walk back to college. And then we had to walk to work. And it was very harsh. And you sort of put all your money together every week to do a shopping, or every month, the beginning of the month, to do a shopping, so the shopping to last you the full month. And within 2 weeks of our shopping, we didn't have food. You know, it was hard. It wasn't easy whatsoever. We struggled. We struggled a lot. Work-wise was good. We used to refurbish schools in the middle of nowhere. We used to go to these schools in the bush, basically, and we used to go refurbish them. And there's like, you go to the school and you need to take your water with you. You need to take the food you want with you. You need to take all your provisions with you, because there's no shops around there. It's just basically miles and miles and miles of bush. So you've got to take everything, like your sleeping bag and whatever, right? And you spend a bloody week in the middle of the bush retrofitting this old school. Yeah, and that was like part of the apprenticeship. So, and then most of the time you work in the factory. So you work in the factory, make all the equipment up, make all the school desks up, make all the whatever furniture, the science lab furniture and everything. And then you load it up onto this big truck. They drive you out, drop you off with everything, and they go back. And they leave you there for a week. And you got a week to complete everything.
So you're getting paid.
You're talking about guys at 16, 17 years old doing that. You know
you were getting paid?
Yeah, we were getting paid, yeah.
Where did the training come in? It doesn't sound like they were doing much training. They just
no, the training came in when we were manufacturing the stuff. Obviously, we had training there, and, you know, training. The curriculum at our school was very harsh to start off with. You know, I mean, I already knew how to do dovetails and everything else, and we used to work on solid mahogany and solid oak and solid yellow wood and everything else, and it was to a perfection. And every year we used to have like this massive auction off, and the school used to make a lot of money from it. So we used to produce high-end furniture from school days already. So by the time we went to him to work for him, he knew, he picked out the people that were going to be worthwhile picking out, to be quite honest with you, because he knew our skills were really good. And then college was just, you know, we used to go to college every night and just do theory. But the practical side of it was you know, manufacturing and installing the damn stuff. So pretty much it was cheap labor, wasn't it, Shane? If you think about it.
Well, that's what apprentices are, aren't they? But you need to train them to get to that point. So it's like give and take. They're not the best, but they're cheap. You need to train them to make them better, and then as soon as they are better, have you treated them well enough that they won't just leave? And are you going to give them, like, it's give and take. At the very start, they might be totally fucking useless. I've had this conversation with loads of tradesmen who won't have an apprentice because they're like, kids these days. I'm like, well, kids these days, mate, probably exactly the same as fucking kids in your days. It's just kids. It's just the way kids are. It's just, I don't get when people say that, because when they were apprentices, I guarantee you, the blokes that were their age when they were 15, 16 will have been saying, oh, these kids don't work as hard as we did. Like, they got it easier, all this crap. Not really. Just because the world's a better place or whatever, it doesn't mean that your apprentice is a worse person than you were. You have to cut some slack.
You see, I think people get that wrong. I do. I agree with you. Because you know what? When we were kids, we were probably the same as kids now. You know, kids don't want to work. Kids want to have fun. Yeah. Every now and then you got to invest a lot of time and effort into an apprentice. I've got one that started with me nearly over 15 years, and he's still with me, right? And he's absolutely brilliant. He's everything to me. I don't know what he's learned over the years, because I tend to do most of the work in any case. You know, he tends to pass stuff and whatever. And every now and then when I say, no, listen, you need to do this, he does it, and he probably does it better than me, you know. But I think the biggest problem these days is not kids wanting to be kids. I think the biggest problem these days, I find, is that kids go to college for 2 years. They come out of college with every single certificate possible out there. So, you know, they got all the certification, but they got no knowledge absolutely no knowledge. And when they come and start their apprenticeship with someone, they go, "Oh yeah, what have you learned?" "Well, I've got this certificate and this certificate and this certificate," but the college has taught them absolutely nothing, right? And it's left to you to put in an investment of time to teach that kid and to shape him to become good at what he's trying to learn. And unfortunately, not everybody can do that because most of them are tradesmen. They're not teachers or coaches, or how can I say? You know where I'm going.
Yeah, so a lot of tradesmen say the same thing.
Mentors.
You can't teach experience, mate. You have to let people not be very good at something or make a mistake or whatever. And a lot of the lads who I speak to, and I've got respect for all of them. I understand why they don't do it, but they'll say, "I'm not having an apprentice again because I haven't got time to stop doing what I'm doing to fix what they've done wrong, or to keep telling him to get off his phone, or to teach him this or to teach him that." And I'm like, and then obviously they have to pay him. So then they're like, "Well, I also have to find more work." It's like, listen, that's something that maybe you're not cut out for it, or maybe you're just happy being a lone worker or whatever, but you just have to find a way around that so you can help somebody out. It might end up being a good asset for you.
I think people need to rethink that, because basically if I was in the position where I needed an apprentice, I would definitely give an apprentice a go. Because it's like this. For me, this is the way I see it. I might be completely wrong. But it's much easier for me to shape someone that doesn't know anything than to shape someone that's got a hell of a lot of bad habits.
Yeah.
So
I find that with the grout. So the grout that the grout that I sell is like kind of different to what people are used to. By far, and this goes for everyone, including the most skilled tilers and who some of the most skilled artists I've ever fucking seen use my product. They're amazing. But even them, when the very first go that people have of it, the people that have the best time with it are complete novices, because they've got nothing else in their mind about what you should do, because they've never done any kind of grouting before in their life. On the first go, I'm not saying after that, but on the very first go, they have a much better time with it. Once the tradesman's got his head around it, after one go, even after 10 minutes, to be honest, he very quickly overtakes the novice, and gets way better than you can imagine. But the very first time using it, because the novices, they've got no preconceived notion of what should be done here. Oh, it's a gun, is it? And you do that and you do that. And they follow the instructions, and the very first time they use it, they're a little bit better. But tradesmen very quickly take over them, because once they're used to it, they've already got the general skills to do it. But it's that initial, it's in your head. It's nothing to do with bad habits. It's a mental thing that you need to accept.
Mm-hmm.
I've got this bias already, and that's the bad habit thing. They've got a bias in the mind, and the brain remembers the way that they always do this thing in a bad way, versus the proper way that you want to teach them. It's hard to get that out. Whereas someone who's never even had one of them things, it's easy to teach them, which is exactly what you've just described.
Yeah.
So
Can I ask you a big favour?
Yeah.
Before we carry on, can I just go grab myself a coffee, because my throat is pretty dry?
Yeah, go for it, mate. It's fine. This happens, my voice is terrible, right? So I did the podcast that I did last. It's probably happening now, to be honest. I spoke to the podcast about an hour and a half long, I think, but I spoke for about 3 hours, and I edited it. And when I was listening back to it, I was like, fucking hell, my voice had gone. It sounded like I'd just got out of bed, because by the third hour, my voice had gone completely. It was like,
it feels like my tongue is getting stuck to my palate. It's like, I need a drink.
Yeah, go for it, mate. I'll just go to the toilet.
I'll just be 2 minutes.
No rush.
Yeah.
Just going to have a little break now, just to remind everybody that this podcast is completely independent. it actually costs money to create this podcast. It makes no money at all at the moment. So the goal is to eventually get the podcast to pay for itself. And we've set up a Patreon, which is a website or an app that lets people pay a subscription if they want to. You don't have to. It's just a support website. It's just a way for you to support the podcast if you enjoy the podcast. It's free to listen to. If you're willing to pay the price of a coffee, like buy me a cup of coffee every month, then that would be great. If we can get enough people to do that, then maybe one day I can start making these podcasts more regular. So if you go to patreon.com/Don't Touch the Cat and you can subscribe there. Thanks very much. Back to the podcast.
That was fast.
Sorted. I always make a cup of tea before. I need to start warning people. Make yourself a brew.
I did, but I drank it so fast.
So your first job from school was the apprentice. What would you be classed as? Trade?
When then?
Then, yeah.
Then was cabinet making.
Okay.
A cabinet. What was it? Cabinet maker. Yeah, cabinet maker.
And what was your first job after that? Did you carry on working for them for a while, or did you move on?
No, I didn't work for them for long, to be honest with you. As soon as I finished the apprenticeship, which I think was 2 years, that was me. I was done. I was done with the life of struggling and not making money and eating out of canned food and stuff like that. Yeah.
So where did you go?
Basically, I went to work for a fish and chips shop. I didn't last long because the owners got murdered. Yeah.
It's not funny, but it kind of...
No, it's not funny because I got there the one morning.
Where was this? Was this South Africa?
This was Southwest Africa.
What is it about South Africa, right? So I've never met loads of people from there, but one lad who I kind of knew back in the day, the worker who come to my house, you, and then people who I see speaking. Why is it so violent? Is that true?
Yeah, I think, look...
Everybody tells me that, like... The lad that lived near me, this is a good few years ago now, we were walking in the street. We'd been to a nightclub, so it was late at night, but a car would, like... This is England. A car would pull up for no particular reason behind, and he would just, like... he was getting ready to leg it. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, and he's like, no... In South Africa, that'd be a big fucking problem. You would run away rather than risk that they might not actually be robbing you.
I think that's sort of, you know what? I think that would be like a really interesting conversation to have as a whole. But it's very difficult to explain to people unless you've lived that lifestyle, you've lived there. But it's difficult because it's not about, let me try and say this in a politically correct manner. It's not about white and black. It's not about color. It's a cultural thing. Because me being Portuguese, I suffered racism quite a lot from the Afrikaans people. So it's sort of, I can't tell you how the race thing works exactly, because I experience half and half type of thing. It's very difficult to say. But in South Africa, in Southwest Africa, there's a cultural thing, I think. And there's this mentality of dog eats dog, basically. If you're going to get burgled or if you're going to get carjacked, there's a higher percentage that you are not going to survive it than what you are going to survive it, and you're just going to get your stuff nicked off you. Because priority is kill who you're assaulting and then take the stuff. That's how it works. So life is worthless. It's not, there is no value for life. And that's not black people against white people against black people. That's just overall, that's how it is.
Is that what happened to the fish and chip owners? Oh, by the way, fish and chip shop in South Africa.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the best fish and chips comes from Portuguese people. Honestly, all the shops in South Africa, all your corner shops were owned by Portuguese. They, every single corner shop, every single business, fish and chip takeaways, corner shops, restaurants, they were all owned by Portuguese. Hence comes the joke, wherever Portuguese goes. No, Portuguese can't play football because every corner they open up a fish and chips.
Really? I didn't know this.
Yeah, it's quite big. So basically, there was two guys working for them, me and another guy. It was a black guy, and he got involved in a wrong circle, and he felt that he wasn't valued enough or he wasn't paid enough, and he came in shift, and along with him he brought his friends, and they raped the old lady and they murdered her, and they murdered the man, and it was their daughter, Karina. She must have been about 14 at the time. She hid underneath her bed, and they didn't know she was there. And I came in to find a very traumatized Karina. And yeah, that was the end of that job.
Fucking hell.
Yeah.
Do you still know the girl?
Believe it or not, she is actually on my Facebook. Her and her sister is still on my Facebook. And a couple of years ago, I did reach out. I've reached out to a few people from the old days. A few people we still stay in touch. There's an undertaker I used to work with. Lovely couple, amazing couple. We still keep in touch. And there was this guy that had a 7-Eleven shop, which I worked for him for a little bit. And we still keep in touch. He's actually a YouTuber now. And he went into producing wildlife photography and wildlife videos. It was always his passion, and he's gone into that. And every now and then we speak to each other. Yeah, I posted a picture the other day and he actually commented on it. So yeah, it's nice. A lot of it I don't want to remember, and a lot of it I don't want to hold a, what would you say, emotional attachment to my previous life in Namibia, because a lot of it was very traumatic. So I just tend to hold on to certain parts of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it, mate. So, what was next?
What was next? So that job led me onto led me on to working for a big company. They saw potential because I was Portuguese. I was quite influential in the Portuguese community, for more reasons than what I'm going to talk about. I became a very influential figure in the Portuguese community, and they offered me a very good position as a warehouse manager at one of the biggest fruit and vegetable wholesalers in Southwest Africa. And I took the job, and just overnight, every single corner shop, every single takeaways corner shop was buying all their fruit and vegetables from them. And I went on running about 12 regional stores. I then was asked to go and revive a store that was doing very good before and was really bad. I was asked to go revive a store, and I went there and I revived the store, and it became quite a successful store and so on. And one thing led to another, and I ended up in Angola. That was in 92 when I went to Angola.
Why did you go there, mate?
Let's just say I went there with 47 containers of fruit and vegetable. And oatmeal and eggs and perishables and canned food and all that stuff. So I went to a place called Lobito in Angola. I flew out in a small little plane. It was an overnight thing. Because I was Portuguese, because I knew the culture, because I knew the language, I was given this opportunity, which became the biggest nightmare of my life. So I went to Angola to establish a big wholesaler there in 92. And things couldn't have turned out any worse than what they did.
So this is genuine job opportunity. The company that you worked for thought because of you could do the job obviously, but because of your language and connections and understanding, that you'd be a good option to go and open a store there. Or is everything that you're telling me now like code for something else? Because I was expecting you then to say it's not actually that, but you don't. It doesn't sound like you'd want to tell me if it was, but
right. So I was working for this company. In this company, obviously, I was a manager in this company. I was very, very, very good friends with the regional manager, MD of the company. The company was split up in two companies. It had the Southwest African company and it had the South African company, and there was two brothers. And the brothers were Hopleys. The company was called Hopleys. I know you don't like to talk about companies, but we're going so far back that it wouldn't really matter. So JC, which was one of the MDs of the Southwest African company, we grew very close together. We were very good friends. But Henk was like a multi-millionaire and businessman. And he saw this venture in Angola. He saw this opening like everybody else did, because Angola was unstable for 47 years of war. I'd been to Angola prior to that, and I'm not going to talk about that. He saw this opportunity like everybody else did, because they were going to have their independence and things are going to work out, and this is time to make money, so let's go to Angola and establish a very big wholesaler there. Who have we got that we can trust, and who have we got that we can send? Well, no, Alex is there. He's Portuguese. He knows the language. He knows the culture. He's a manager. He's very good at his job. Let's offer him the position. So I took it. I took it because I was newly married. I had a little kid. And obviously, I wanted a future. And that was going to give me quite a good future. So I decided to take it. So I was going to go and establish this wholesaler. I was going to go to Angola for 2 months and establish the whole wholesaler and get a manager there. And then I'll probably fly in and out every now and then and control the whole thing. So it was me, was Henk, JC didn't go. He was totally against the whole idea. And he asked me not to take it. But I didn't really have a choice, because we ran all the branches, but we ran one branch that we used to run, me and my ex-wife. We used to run that branch. And basically, the condition was you either take the job or you don't have a job. Basically, that's what it was. So I was bullied into it, to be honest with you. But the offer was very good. So me, Hank, and the pilot and this little young accountant went to Angola. And he was there for 2 weeks. He rented out this villa, which was pretty much derelict, because everything else in Angola was bloody derelict. Everything was either blown up or out of disrepair and, whatever. And we rented out this villa right next to this sergeant major colonel or whatever, right? Which he was going to be one of the partners, because we had to have a military governmental figure that would be a partner in order for us to be able to establish it. It's, corrupted country. Same old, it's who you know, not what you know. So he was sorting out all the legal sides out of it, and the things we can do, can't do, the wholesalers, the buildings, the transport. He was sorting out, making sure that all the goods that arrived in the port would actually come out of the port and into the wholesaler, not distributed throughout the whole country back door. So the military was involved in some sort of way on that deal. So 2 weeks later, he says, right, okay, I'm going back while you establish everything and do a stock take and get everything ready and start selling. I'm going to go back for a few days because I've got urgent issues to attend to, and then I'll be back. And he went, and he never came back. And the reason he never came back is because 2 days after, all flipping hell broke loose. We had a massive civil war, and we were under attack for about 3-4 weeks, constant shelling and bombing. We ducking and diving. Well, I was, and I was left on my own. Everything was ducking and diving and surviving the bombings and the shelling and the blatant murdering and everything else that came along with it. And gets a knock on the door the one day, and you are now officially under house arrest. You ain't going anywhere. My passport got taken off me. A guard got implemented to basically keep me, make sure that I'm on house arrest. All the all the merchandise got confiscated. I wasn't allowed to sell it. I had to go under guard. I had to go every morning to the wholesaler. I had to sit down and I had to write down what the army took, because they commissioned all that food for the army. So I wasn't allowed to sell it to the public anymore. So basically, anybody that came to pick anything up had to have a certificate of purchase from the local government's office to say that they are there to buy the products which are going to some army contract or to the army or whatever. And we were under attack pretty much daily while I was there. I mean, the warehouse got attacked more than I can remember. I was in gunfights more than I can remember. One day we were actually rescued by patrol. That I'll never forget. My guard, or whatever you call him, he used to drive an old Russian car. I can't remember the bloody name of it, but it's like an old tank of a car. And we were driving the thing, and I could just hear ricochets of bullets going into the thing, and we had a convoy in front of us and a convoy behind us, and they were shooting. And we got to this area where we lived, we called Ristinga, and Ristinga was like a little island that went sort of off the side in Lubito, and it sort of had like a bay, and that was heavily guarded because all the government officials and all the high-end people and rich people used to live there. So there was like, the moment we entered that guarded area, sort of things calmed down and so on. But yeah, it was very exciting. Very, very, very exciting.
So you went over just to open a new business, start a new business.
Yeah.
And the business ended up, which is probably normal if there's a war, the government kind of confiscates or takes over and says, right, you're doing this now because we're at war. So that's almost normal if there's a war, I suppose. But then whoever, because it's a civil war, I presume the area that you were in, the armed forces for whoever was governing that area has arrested you? Or, like, why? Do you know what I mean?
Pretty much so. They pretty much wanted me under the thumb. I don't know. They could have probably just taken everything and I don't know. But that's the way they worked, and pretty much I wasn't officially arrested. I was under house guard 24/7. He used to. We actually became best of friends. We became very, very good friends. Till this day, there's not one day that goes by that I don't think about him, because I'm still pretty much alive because of him. Yeah, so
What was his name?
Thomas. Yeah, so they commissioned everything, and basically they would drive me from and to, from the house to the warehouse. And that was pretty much my daily routine, apart from hiding, and trying to avoid the shelling and surviving. And, it's funny because when you get into a situation like that, you got two choices. You either become part of the situation or you hide from the situation as a foreigner. And I became part of the situation. I became part of the people. I became part of the culture. I became part of the community. I integrated into their daily struggles. I integrated into their lifestyles. I helped where help was needed. I integrated with the families. I done everything as if that was my country and that was my community. And I became part of that community, and I became very loved in that community and very liked. And that's probably the only reason I'm still alive today, is because of the way I handled it. Thomas, he became like a brother to me. We became very, very close, and to such an extent that he would go out of his way so much for me, and he would go, I got malaria very bad when I was in Angola, and I nearly died from malaria. And you would go into any chemist, the hospital wasn't working. The chemist, you walk into a chemist and the shelves were completely bare. And you go into the chemist and you say, I need this, for example, I need quinine pills for malaria. No, we don't have quinine pills. We got nothing. But yeah, I'll write you a prescription, go into the market, and you'll find it on the market, because basically all the shops were ransacked and everything was sold in the black market. So we got some pills for the malaria. We got some pills, but they soon ran out. And the lady next door, she actually had some roots, some quinine roots, and she boiled that up every day and made a tea. And they spoon-fed me this tea because I was in bed with really high temperatures and fevers and, really bad. And they made me better that way. And then there was another instance where basically I had nothing in the house. I had a bed and that's it, and whatever food I could get from the warehouse, mostly eggs and flour and tins of sardine and stuff like that to keep me going. But we soon learned that there was a value in all this stuff that was there, and me and Thomas would bring some stuff back, and we used to barter and get other food supplements that we needed from the fishermen, for example, and so on. And the one day, it was a calm day. I think there was like a ceasefire or something like that, and we went into the market, and he got me like a AM/FM radio, because I had nothing. I needed some music or some form of entertainment so that it stops me from going bloody crazy. And there used to be this channel in Southwest Africa where they would dedicate this radio show to the farmers and to the boys up in the north, and the army boys, because their families would call in and leave messages, because it was so hard to if you were up in the north, you couldn't just make a phone call to someone. You had to call the exchange, and the exchange had to connect you, and half the time it wouldn't work. And so this radio show was established where people would phone in and say, oh yeah, listen, I just want to leave a message to my uncle. He's in such a place on the farm, and everything's okay here, everybody's okay. And it was that type of show, right? So that's what they dedicated themselves to. So I tuned into that show because I used to enjoy it. I tuned into that show every night. Around about 7:00, the show was on every night. So I tuned into that show every night, and I used to listen. And some of the messages that came on, I knew the people. Yeah, I knew the people, so it was relevant to me in some form. And it was nice to hear messages from home, even though they weren't for me. It was nice to have that little bit of connection, because you feel so isolated and you feel like, you're world apart, So to have those little messages and stuff like that is absolutely awesome. And I was laying in bed one night and I was having a cigarette. I was smoking a Camel, really dry, humid Camel that I got off a packet that I bought off the market. And I was listening to this radio show, and there was a message to me. And it's like, oh my God, I just broke down because I couldn't believe it. And all my friends got together and they recorded this message and said, look, we don't know where you are. We don't know how you are. We hope you're still alive and blah, blah, blah. And we love you. And, we can't wait to see you and all that stuff. And that was, yeah.
That's crazy, isn't it? So all that time you're telling me the story there, I forgot about maybe people were wondering where the fuck you were. Do you know what I mean? That's crazy.
Well, Shane, I got stuck in Angola for over 6 months. And I managed to get out of Angola. I was smuggled out of Angola. So from Lobito, it was organized for me to get on an aeroplane, which was the only aeroplane that would go out of Benguela, which was like a 45-minute drive from Lobito to Benguela. So that airplane was the only aeroplane that would leave Angola. And I was organized a ticket in the black market to get on that aeroplane. And unfortunately, corruption is so much so that the airplane was sold up. The tickets were sold out tenfold. There was more people for that airplane that the airplane could carry. So when we got there was like this massive fence in front of the airport, which is a airstrip with barely nothing because everything was bombed. And there's this old 747, this really old rickety 747 there. I think it was a TAG, I think it was. And this thing was like, in normal circumstances, you wouldn't even dream to fly on this airplane, right? But you're standing in front of this gate and this fence, and there's maybe 200 people standing there for the same reason in what you're standing. And there's a guy on the other side with AK-47, and, don't you dare even try and put your foot through that gate because he will shoot you. And next minute he opens the gate and says, first come, first serve. That's it. And everybody's trying to run for this airplane with their luggage and everything. And I just dropped everything I had on me and I legged it and I got on that airplane. And so did everybody else and more, because there was no room to move. I mean, the lady came and she bloody jumped on my lap. The thing was so loaded. There was people sitting right down the corridor of the airplane. The pilot just told everybody to throw the baggage out. And there was no single space in that aircraft at all. Everywhere was full. And I think that was the most frightening flight I ever took in my life, because the airplane just did not want to take off. It was a struggle to take off. And we got off the ground and I landed in Luanda, which is the capital of Angola. And I was instructed that I was not to get off the plane. I was to stay on that plane, which I did. I stayed on the plane, and all of a sudden, these two blokes show up. They didn't even say a word to me. Just grabbed me by the arm, rushed me out, opened the boot of a car, shoved me in the boot of the car, closed the boot of the car, and we must have been driving for over 45 minutes, and it's like loads of commotion going on, and bumpy road, a really, really bumpy road, to say the least. And when the boot was open, I was in a garage. And they opened the boot, and this woman was standing, and she says, "I'm so sorry we had to do that. I apologize," and whatever. "I'm so-and-so," and she introduced herself. She was actually one of the highest coordinators for the airline. She worked for the airline. And her husband was a sergeant, colonel, or something like that in the army. And the sergeant that was supposed to be partners with us to establish the business, he actually organized this whole thing, right? So my only role was to get on that aeroplane. And after that, they would sort everything out. And they were lovely. They were absolutely amazing people. We also became friends, but there was one transaction in this whole thing that was like, in a war situation, you don't get anything for free. You have to pay for everything. And in that situation, there was a big cost involved in me being smuggled out of the country. And the cost was that I was to take his daughter out of the country with me. And they could get his daughter out of the country, but there was, I think it was 2 weeks before they could get a flight to Mozambique. So she would come with me to Namibia. She would stay with me and my family for a week or 2 weeks, and then we would put on a plane to go to Mozambique. So it was safe for her. And that was the whole deal. And that's the way I got out of that situation.
Wow. What your family? What were they thinking? And then, did you just turn up? Did they know you were on the way, or what?
No one knew. When I landed in the airport of Windhoek International Airport, the moment I got off the plane, I was grabbed by the police. They took me to one side and they interviewed me and asked me where I was. And I said, "What's the big deal?" I didn't understand the big deal about it. I just didn't get it. And the guy asked me to get up, and he walked me into the main terminal. And there were posters of my face everywhere. And the Red Cross was searching for me. The Portuguese consulate was searching for me. Because all my friends arose that I was missing. And I was presumed dead. So my wife at the time moved on. And my mother thought I was dead. So I hadn't spoken to my brother for about 5 years at that point because we fell out. And he was the person that came to pick me up at the airport. And I didn't understand how traumatic my experience was until weeks after I was back in Namibia. It's like, it was quite funny because I went to stay with my brother for a few days because I lived up north. Now, I didn't know anything what was going on about my wife and at the time and anything like that. So I stayed with my brother for a few days, and I went to use the toilet at his house the first day that I arrived there, and that girl was, the colonel's daughter was with us. And I came out of the toilet and I was screaming and shouting at my brother, and I said, "What's this? Are you people live like animals or what?" And he looked at me and said, "What do you mean?" He says, "There's no bucket of water to flush the toilet. What's going on?" And he says, "Alex, we don't flush the toilet with buckets of water. You press the button on the cistern." And that's how it's funny, you go from a normal life and you go into experience like that, and it's so traumatizing, and it's so, you get sucked in so deep and so fast that you forget what normality is, and that becomes normality. And I didn't realize until I came back how life had changed so fast for me. How things have completely, to be quite honest with you, I was pretty messed up after that. And then I went back home, and obviously there wasn't a relationship anymore. And that ended up just breaking apart within a month or so. And, I soon found out that she'd obviously moved on. I couldn't blame her. She ended up, yeah, that's that. Yeah.
Wow. Well, thanks for telling me that, mate. That is an amazing. Oh, that's amazing to me. I don't suppose you think it's amazing. Amazing in a different way.
No, I do. I think I summarized about 10% of my experience in Angola in this chat. There's so much more to it. But the way I see it is that everything happens for a reason. And the outcome of it depends on how you take it and how you deal with it. For me, that whole experience has actually shaped me and made me into the person I am. And to be quite honest with you, for far better reasons, or for far better of a person than what I used to be. Because there's a period of my life I'm not very proud of in Namibia, where I became very influential in the Portuguese community. And probably had I not taken this opportunity and done what I'd done, I'll probably, I don't know, maybe be dead by now, or a really bad person, or in prison, or whatever, because the Portuguese community in Southwest Africa in them days were very, very corrupt. They used to do a lot of side hustle deals and look themselves as a bit of a mafia organization and stuff like that. And I got mixed up with a lot of that, and probably this what happened took me away from that and shaped me into a much better person. In fact, it's the only reason I actually met my wife now. And I've got 3 beautiful children, 3 most amazing kids. And I wouldn't have any of this had that experience not happened to me. And I wouldn't be the person that I am had that experience not happened to me. So for me, when I met my wife, was a complete turnaround and a complete change of lifestyle for me. And was one that I'm really grateful of, I think we had a conversation, my wife and I, because when I came back from Angola, the Portuguese community sort of took over a little bit, and they went, "No, this is bullshit. They're going to pay for what they done to you, and you're now going to go under our we're going to look after you, basically. We're going to establish you. We're going to sort you. We're going to make everything all right. And you lost your family. You lost your child. And we're going to get your child back. And, you know, it was very... My mind was so messed up. I was drinking so much. I became an alcoholic, I would say. Because I was drinking a bottle of brandy every day just to numb the pain of what happened. I was that bad. And they put me up in a house. They got me a house, and I moved when the relationship broke. I moved to Windhoek, and I had a job ready for me there. And you know, they were gonna bring back the old Alex, and they were gonna carry on with the old things that they, you know, they had it all planned out for me, basically. And the one night, there was a knock on the door, and there's these two goons, Portuguese goons, with my child in their arms. And I said, well, what's going on? No, the child, he's Portuguese, you Portuguese, and he needs to remain with the father. That's it. They drove 600 kilometers to go and take my child off the mother.
Fuck.
And brought my child to me and says, he's Portuguese, he's staying with the father. That's it. That's how we work. That's how it's going to be. And at that moment, I realized, I can't be in this situation. I can't do this. This is not the life I want. And I got in my car and I drove all the way up, and I went back and I took my son back to my ex, and I said, look, that did not happen from me. I didn't do this. Yeah, I want to maintain a relationship with my child, but I don't want it like this. And, you know, and because of that incident, and because of the person that she was with, and how close me and that person was before that, because of that incident, they packed up and they disappeared for over 20 years. They went in hiding. And I lost a relationship with my son because of that one incident, because they feared. And I can't blame them for it. But when I met my wife in Cape Town, and I knew, you know, I fell for her quite immediately. She's a extraordinary person, an amazing person. And I fell for her quite immediately. But I wasn't gonna establish a relationship with her unless I was gonna be honest with her. And the very first conversation I had with her, I took her to a restaurant, and we sat down, and I said, look, this is my life. This is my past. And I just want you to know what you're getting yourself into, because I promise you from this day onwards, I will no longer be part of that life or that person. And but I've got to warn you that they will come for me. They will come to try and take me back to that lifestyle, to that. And I sort of warned her, and she looked at me and says, I love you. We'll do it together. And about 3-4 weeks later, they did come. They came for me. And I said, no, I'm out. I'm done with this life. I'm done with everything. There's much more to it. And it wasn't, I wouldn't say it wasn't really, people might get the impression that basically this was like organized crime or anything like that. It wasn't. It wasn't that. It's just this Portuguese code of practice, this thing that it's a community, and all the shops are ran in a certain way where they get benefits from everywhere. It's, you know, they sort of got people that work at Coca-Cola, for example, and they will get cheaper prices from Coca-Cola, and you know, there's a lot to it, but it's not like major like Hollywood.
How much do you want to talk about it? Because I've got a lot of fucking questions.
basically, it's like this. The way the Portuguese community ran things in those days was they'll go to Coca-Cola and say, look, you're going to provide us with the merchandise at this price. And Coca-Cola would go, no, we're not. Absolutely not. So they would say, okay, if you don't, you're not selling Coca-Cola. That's it. And as much as they tried to sell Coca-Cola, the trucks would go missing. The trucks would never get to their destinations. Right? Or the drivers would come and they would load a whole truck of Coca-Cola, and half of that Coca-Cola would go to the Portuguese shops for half the price and stuff like that. It wasn't like major stuff.
Sounds pretty organised. So, would it be like if there was, because they're in a different country, if there was a religious community? It's the only thing I can think of. So there'd be a religious community all live in one area, but these were like Portuguese community all living in one area, and they look after their own community above anything else, and they didn't mind bending the rules sometimes to get what they wanted, is what it sounds like. And it sounds a little bit...
They didn't bend the rules. No, they made the rules.
Yeah.
That's the only explanation I can have. They didn't bend the rules, they made the rules. You see, most of the businesses in Africa at that time were run by Portuguese people. Right? And I'm talking from me going into a wholesaler and becoming the manager of so many stores and a major big international wholesaler. They had a connection. They had someone in the wholesaler. And there was a certain amount of expectation of how much they pay for their goods. And JC knew it. Yeah, he knew what he was getting himself into, because he knew that he's going to get all the trade, all the community is going to come buy from him. He's going to make a hell of a lot of money, but it's going to be on their terms, not anybody else's terms. And they had the buying power because they had over 200 shops just in Windhoek. And all the shops used to organize with each other. Every single shop used to put their order into one person. And that one person was me. And I used to buy everything for 200 shops. And they used to get at a really, really good discounted price because they bought so much. So it was that type of thing. It wasn't going and breaking people's legs and racketeering and stuff like that. It was more business organized than anything else. It wasn't. Yeah. Yes, there was an element, another side to it. There was another side to it, which was like very. Namibia is a diamond country. You read between the lines.
Mm.
Yeah. So you used to have very, very wealthy people, very powerful people. I mean, I used to associate myself with, at the time, with people like the vice president of Namibia, you know, and very powerful people. The Portuguese community was very influential, and they were a very tight-knit community. There was a security element, a security firm, that because of all the risks of the Portuguese shops and the amount of assaults on the Portuguese shops and everything like that, there was a syndicate of a security that was established by the Portuguese people, where everybody had two-way radios, and if one shop got attacked, every other shop, every Portuguese person, all the community would drop everything they would do to go to their aid, and they used to have their own little private security. And if there was any quarries or any issues within the Portuguese community, it used to be sorted within the Portuguese community, not outside the Portuguese community. If anybody did anything wrong, it would be the Portuguese community that would that would sort it out, not
So-
anybody else.
Have you ever thought about writing all this down? So the story you've just told me, right, before we got to getting back, I didn't want to interrupt you because it's just a really amazing story. So all of that, and then everything, so that's the end of that chapter, and then everything you're just describing to me now sounds like... So, is that yours?
That is.
He was just showing me a load of what is it? Essays?
Right. I'm gonna. If I may, I'll read one for you.
Yeah. So Alex. So people are listening. Remember. So Alex has just shown me a list of. Is it essays or short stories or?
It's a book.
So he's writing a book.
Writing.
I guess there were chapters then. It's just showed me a list of chapters.
But
so the answer to my original question is yeah, I fucking have written it down. Is it?
Right. So
Go
I'm gonna read out a small one.
Go for it.
Right. So this no one's ever heard this. No one. I've never read it out to anybody. Right. So you can see that the picture of that there will sort of summarize what it's about. So, I was all packed, excited, but yet I had reservations. Initially, saying yes was easy, but now that the time was finally here, things looked rather different. I was about to leave Namibia, all my friends, my family, and the life I had grown used to. I didn't want to make it harder than what it was. So I kept things normal as possible. I went into work that morning like it was any other day. The aerodrome was just outside Ochivarongo, and I was to be there at 11 a.m. The plan was to go over and stay for a few weeks. We had to go see a few warehouses and deal with port clearances, and that the containers could be released. Henk had a contact that he was quite high ranked in Lobito, but I did not know much more than that. I knew that I did not need much clothing, so I packed light. I got my driver to run me down to the aerodrome, and on the way he expressed his concern. Mister, are you sure about this? I don't trust Angola. It's very bad there. Thomas was right to be worried. A lot of people went over thinking that it was stable enough and ended up finding themselves in trouble. The one thing that made me more at ease was that the fact that Angola was going through the election period. And that for the first time in 16 years, the elections brought peace and hope of bringing civil war to an end in this country. Besides, we were dealing with the NPLA and not UNITA. It was to be okay. It will be okay, I reassured Thomas. I'm not going for long. The war's over. Thomas knew as much as I did that it was never that simple when it came to Angola. Things can rapidly escalate, but he was not about to make me more worried, and answered with a smile and a nod. I was already warming up, and the delivery truck lacked in working aircon. It was mainly used for local deliveries, so we did not really bother in having it fixed. We reached the aerodrome about 10:30. It was a small single airstrip with a few tin structures on it. The only other vehicle parked was a 4x4 with a drum of fuel on the back. He was waiting for the very same plane I was going to be picked up in. I was sat with my door open having a cigarette and could hear Thomas crunching dried Mopani worms. It was one of his favorite snacks. He could be extra nice to me in the months between November and January. That's when the season for Mopani worms outbreak. And he could always ask me to borrow the works van truck to go and collect them. So basically, Mopani worms is a worm that only happens like once a year in Namibia, and is a delicacy because they go and pick all these worms off the trees and they dry them out, and it's like a really local delicacy for them to chew throughout the whole year, and that's what he was chewing. He and the rest of the staff could take 2 weeks, and they would harvest and prepare as many as they could, drying them out to ensure a year's supply of snacks. They encouraged me to try it once. I'm not squeamish, by my taste buds did not take to the taste of the texture of it. Thomas, do you really have to eat them in front of me? With a stained grin, he turned and offered me some out of a bag he was holding. And at that same moment, I heard the planes approaching. No thanks, I said. Looks like my flight came at just the right time. As the plane was taxiing towards us, I shook Thomas' hand and said, I'm counting on you, Thomas. Don't worry, everything will be fine here, he said. I climbed out of the truck and grabbed my bag from the flatbed, walked a few meters and looked back to see a cloud of dust. Thomas was gone, and the plane had just stopped about 10 meters away from me. Hank was not a small man, and you could see him struggle as he tried to get his body out of the plane and footing on the small step. With the help of the pilot, he was firmly on the ground. He stood there for a few minutes, stretching himself, and suddenly glazed my way. A young skinny guy was emerging from the aeroplane, a dark-haired guy dressed in tights and crumped-up navy blue trousers, black shiny shoes, and a white shirt and tie with the company logo on his pocket front. He stood next to Hank, that looked like a giant next to him. Hank started walking towards me, followed by a young guy. He normally gazed back to the pilot and said, Let's get fueled and get out of here. Mark, this is our man, he said, as he gripped my hand tightly with the other hand on my shoulder. He's going to be our translator and help us get Lobito off the ground. So yeah, I'm not going to read any further, but...
Is it finished?
No, it's not finished. It's probably, I don't know, a quarter way.
Wow. That's amazing. When you were telling me that story, so I didn't want to interrupt, but I knew you were coaching over months and months with comments, like months had passed by. I was like, I want to know. So now I can. And now anybody can, I suppose. What are you going to do with it when you've written it?
I don't know. I don't know if I'm writing it just to...
yeah, this is why I was asking.
Sanity's sake.
Yeah, that's why I was asking.
You see... This is not something I talk about.
Mm.
And why I chose to talk about it on this podcast, only God will know. I don't know. You're quite a relaxed guy to talk to, and I feel like I'm not talking for a podcast, I'm talking to you in kind of a way. But there's a lot of things inside of me that's been kept for a very long time. And when you bottle up things for such a long time, it gets harder.
Yeah.
To cope with those things. I'm a pretty strong person, but there's certain things that really dig into me. And this is what I say on coming back to social media. You can see someone on social media and you can have a presumption of what type of person that is and how strong that person is, what type of person that is. And you can, people often comment without thinking what that person has been through. What triggers that person? What will bring that person to the edge? People don't think about that because all they see is a screen in front of them. And it's okay to take your frustration or your lack of success or whatever you may call it and take it out on that person. But you don't know how far you can push that person before you have effect on that person's life.
Yeah.
And probably me bringing this up, I'm not looking for sympathy. I couldn't care. I'm going to speak very honestly. I couldn't care shit. I've been through more in my life than anybody or anybody's words can ever state, bring me down. I've been through far too much to be able to let someone put me down. But it's not about me. It's about a lot of guys on social media, a lot of women on social media that cannot take that level of abuse, that will drive them to the edge. And maybe this little bit of my life will maybe make people understand that just think before you comment.
100%, mate. People won't necessarily have been through the same thing as you, but there'll be something. And sometimes it's not even a lot. Like, it's pointless comparing yourself to people because what you went through is a lot. And what someone else went through, when you put them next to each other, you would say, well, Alex's was worse. Not necessarily. The other person's might have been, I don't know, making shit up, bullied at school, blah, whatever. It's just as bad to them. So it's just as mean. Do you know what I mean?
Shane, sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay.
I've got a philosophy or a way of thinking in my life, right? I've got this strange mentality that I have. And when it comes to problems and mental health and stuff like that, I always say this, and I try and illiterate this into people's heads. There isn't such thing as a big problem and a small problem. A problem is a problem. Yeah? My experiences, my traumatic events that's happened in my life are no bigger than a tiny little event that happened in someone else's life, because it all depends how people deal with that problem. What may be a really big problem to you is a small problem to me, but what may be a big problem to me is a small problem to you. So there's no greater or smaller problem. A problem is a problem. And yeah, I completely agree with you. You know, if you go back talking about school and people that get bullied in school, I'll give you one incident, just one incident. We were studying for an exam in school. So we had this big study hall in the hostel. That, you know, after supper, you go and have supper, you wash up, you go and have supper, whatever, and then you go into this big class and you got to study for 2 hours, right? And I went to study and I sat down and the teacher that was looking after the whole study group, he was like on a podium type of thing with his cane, and he would walk up to anybody that he thought they were messing around, and he would cane them on the back, on the face, or wherever he desired to cane them, because that's how it was. But he took a particularly liking for me that day. He decided, no, today is the Rocha's day today. I want to pick on him today. I don't want to pick on anybody else. I'm going to pick on him. And how am I going to pick on him? He got through 2 or 3 of the prefects up to him, and they went round the corner and they came back out and they had a big 2-liter Coke bottle or Fanta bottle or whatever it was. I can't remember. And they came up to me, they came behind me, they held me down, pinned me down. The teacher grabbed my face, lifted my chin up and rammed this bottle full of warm, disgusting piss down my throat, yeah, and force me to drink that. So, yeah, it's not. You never know what someone's been through in their life, yeah. So it's to when you say something to somebody, you might think that it doesn't have an effect on them or whatever, you know. The only thing about me is I think my mental attitude to what's happened in my life and the experiences I had, it's made me a stronger person and made me tough to a certain way. But there are some triggers that does trigger me. There are things that trigger me, you know. There are things that said on social media sometimes that do trigger me, and it takes me, well, hang on, I've got to think about this to overcome those triggers.
Yeah. So it's not a competition, but your bullying definitely beats mine.
Listen, I had my fair share.
Yeah,
and I got
plenty of
back.
people do, mate. It's the thing with social media, right? And I get that. I don't know when this happened for me, but it doesn't matter to me anymore. Like it's kind of bullying, but they're not really, because they don't know what they're doing to be a bully. So it's not even worth seeing as, call it cyberbullying. It is, and it's affecting the other person. But if you can, and this is probably hard to do for some people, especially if they're younger. It's not even worth. Do you know? It's not even worth a thought. If it was a bully, if it was like school bully is a good example, because you know them, they know you, they might know things to push your buttons or whatever, and it's like serious, and it can be bad, or physical bullying. Obviously, that's bad. But with cyberbullies, they don't know you. You don't know them. Whatever they're writing, if they manage to push one of your buttons, it's just luck. So if you can get yourself to not even consider that as a valid thing to think about, it's great, because you can start laughing at it. But I know it's hard to do. But I was doing it recently. I was showing the missus, like, look, because I made a post that it was attracting some. It's trolls. It's not even people they don't know you. They'll just comment on anything, the way you look, what you said, your fucking hair, your teeth, your eye, whatever. And I was pissing myself laughing at people being horrible to me, because I was like, this is fucking hilarious. It was funny to me that, like, I'm in my 40s now, so I'm like, none of this is going to possibly bother me. But I can imagine younger people, not even younger, I can imagine how it can bother people, and that's why I never understand why tradesmen slag each other off or have a go at each other on social media, because you've got an opportunity there to help each other out and have each other back.
I don't think it's only in social media. I think tradesmen do it in general, day life. You know, if you go to a job and you tell the customer, oh, he was a bad tradesman, whoever does that is a bloody cowboy.
Yeah, that'll always happen. But behind my back, I don't give a fuck what you say. I won't do it. I don't care. This is something else I say to him. He's like, why are you bothered about what someone might be saying about you, what you don't know about? Who cares? Who are they telling? How is it affecting you? I guarantee you right now that there's someone somewhere slagging me off. It's just the way the world is. And it might be someone who probably likes me.
Yeah.
It's just the way. I'll slag my brother off. He'll slag me off. But we get on really well. But when he left, I say, fucking hell, can you believe that dickhead? And he'll say exactly the same about me. And it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I don't care. I prefer not to know. Why does it matter? Everyone slags everyone off, and that. So behind, you'll fucking drive yourself insane worrying about what someone might think about you or might be saying about you. But the things that you can see, if it's social media, you just need to learn to think, well, that's just a fluke that person's managed to fucking say something that's bothered me.
Well, Alan Hart sort of said something on the live. We were on the live, and Alan Hart was on the live, and he said, you know what, right? This stuck to me. Your trolls are your biggest fans. Right? They comment on every video you make. They watch every video you make.
Yeah.
They interact with every video you make. Says, keep them close to your heart.
Yeah.
Because, they're your best subscribers or whatever.
If one of your goals is to get more views and more followers and stuff, you want trolls. You want it. Because unfortunately, the way that the internet works, if people are being nasty and arguing in the comments, the algorithm will probably like that because it doesn't know exactly what they're saying. It could probably filter out really bad words. Yeah. But the fact that people are interacting, great. Just learn to not give a fuck about it.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter. It's the same as not worrying about what somebody might think about you. Who gives a fuck? Who they going to tell? Who gives a fuck if they don't like? Do you know what I mean? Loads of people don't like me. I don't like loads of people. It's just the way of the world. Can't like everyone, and everyone can't like you. So you don't need to worry about it. But if your goal is social media, you've got to. I'm saying this. My goal isn't to get loads of followers. Actually, I do want 10,000 followers on TikTok because then you get paid if you get a good post. And I'll be shameless about that because I'd love that. But other than that, I don't care. But if your goal is followers, you need to learn to not give a fuck.
Shane, why do people think that you get paid that well, or you get paid? Do you know what, Shane? Honestly, me and Professor Plum Sam were discussing this the other day, right? And he was showing me his what is it? God, let me look here. It's called the beta program or whatever.
Yeah. Right? That's when you need 10,000 followers in it. I don't care how much you get. I just like the idea of being able to say, I'm getting some money.
It's so messed up at the moment. The RPM. Some people are like on 50p. Some people are like on £1 odd. Some people are like on more. It's ridiculous. I mean, for the past 4 months, I only earned about 40 quid, mate. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I aren't bothered about the actual value. I just like the idea of being able to say, I'm getting paid for fucking this. And this is why I say to people, if you're doing it and you can figure out a way of being sponsored or something, as long as you don't change what you do and people still entertained by it, fill your fucking boots.
Yeah,
why not?
Absolutely.
Make it your job.
Agree.
Great.
Totally agree.
Right, so, amazing story. Just a quick one. What happened to Thomas, or do we have to read the book? I've got written down here Thomas from ages ago, but I didn't want to interrupt you.
I think you might have to read the book one day.
Oh, I definitely will. So, how did you end up in the UK? To have a little fast forward.
Right, okay, so I met my wife in Cape Town. Obviously, I needed to get out of Namibia. Start my life. Just restart my life. My parents were in Cape Town, and I decided that's it, I'm leaving everything. So I went to my friend, partner, whatever you want to call him, and I said, there's the keys. There's everything I have, everything I own, take it all, I'm gone. And I left Namibia and I went to South Africa, where I met my wife, and we established a relationship and everything else. And then her family wanted to come to England, and I wasn't going to split the family up. She was prepared to stay in South Africa, and I said, no, I'm not prepared to do that. And we all came to England as a family. So we came to England in 1997. We landed in Manchester. We stayed in the Airbnb or something like that, and then we organized. I think we stayed in the Airbnb for about 3-4 nights. We organized somewhere to stay, and we all moved into a house together. And I think it was on the third day that I was in Manchester, I got dressed one morning and I said, I'm going to town. I'm going to find a job. And everybody looked at me like I'm bloody mad. And I got on this tram, which I've never been on my life, and it was like an experience all on its own. And I went into Manchester, and I went into this place I'll never forget. In Manchester, there's the Arndale Centre, and inside the Arndale Centre, there used to be this place called the Fast Picture Show. And it was like a place that did photocopying and they did like photos and fixed photos and all sorts, like a photography shop type of thing. So I went in there and I got a resume and that I've written out, and they printed loads for me. And I went into every single shop. I walked around all day handing my resume into anywhere I could. Restaurants, shops, whatever. I just handed my resume into everybody. And I ran out of my resume. I ran out and I came back into the Ondel shop, and I went and I was going into the fast picture show to get some more printed out. And as I approached, there was a sign saying staff wanted. And I asked for the manager. I spoke to the manager. I said, I'm interested. I'll work for you. Well, you're not really the candidate. You're a bit too old and blah, blah, blah. But for one other reason, she said yes. And I worked there. I got the job that day. So 3 days into the UK, I got myself a job. And I started working there. And I think I worked there for about a year and a half or something like that, or 2 years. And in the meantime, I was doing part-time work for my landlord, fixing up some properties. I only had hand tools. I didn't have anything. I had a bloody saw, a hand planer. I didn't even have any tools, you know. And I was doing odds and sods for him. And one day he showed up at my house. He says, I want you to come work for me full time. And I said, okay, yeah, what you got to offer? And told me, and I started working for this landlord. But he still is. He's really harsh, hard businessman. And he said to me, look, this is the deal. I will only ever get one trade to do something once. And when I get a trade, you got to go with them, a tradesman, you got to go with them, and you got to learn, because you're going to end up doing it. I don't want, that's it. And he says, you either do that or you don't have a job, right? And there was a lot of stuff like
sounds like a landlord.
Yeah, like putting felt on roofs, roofing, fitting carpets, all sorts. Yeah, that's how I learned, and I had to learn it. So I ended up managing all these properties. Collecting all the rents, sitting for hours on end with people at the dole office and at the, going and sorting out their the dole for payment for the houses, and I can't even remember what it's called anymore. So yeah, I did all that, and in between I did all the repairs, and I was working overtime, and I was going on call-outs 2-3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, and then I opened up my own business, and I said to him, look, I want to work for myself, and opened up a business, and I never looked back.
And that's what you do now.
Yeah, that's what I do now.
And in the meantime, you got plumbing qualifications.
Well, I'm busy with plumbing qualifications.
That's what you're doing now, is it?
Yeah. I qualified as an electrician, basically, because when Part P was coming in, I saw I needed it, because I couldn't rely on waiting for electricians to go and finish a kitchen, because obviously Part P came in, so I wasn't able to work on electrics after Part P. So I said that's going to kill the industry, because obviously I can't be contracting electricians and waiting for days on end. I need the work doing. So I went and qualified as an electrician and registered myself as Part P so that I could do my own electrics.
Cool. And what's the plumbing that you do? An ACS? Is it called ACS?
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah. It's basically to become a domestic gas engineer. That's basically what it is.
Gas.
Yeah.
So really, if anyone's listening, you were basically handy, weren't you? You had skills from the woodworking.
Mm-hmm.
But you were handy, like, as in, I know I'm not that handy. I can do stuff, but I couldn't do it for a job. But I know people who are like, they're not necessarily a professional, but they can fix a lot of stuff in the house. So you could set yourself up. I suppose I could, really. I have to constantly fixing stuff, but you can set yourself up as a handyman. And in the meantime, get a few qualifications. You understood that you needed that electrician qualification to help you to work quicker. You're getting a plumbing qualification, and then before you know it, you're fucking multi-skilled, able to do. You probably turn up to do a plumbing job and end up hanging all the doors for them as well, just because you can. Yeah, you're open all these opportunities to make money.
You summarize it pretty much correctly, because basically when I started out, I was a handyman. I was just doing it part-time, and I grew from that. I learned lots of trades, and I learned how to be a multi-skilled tradesman. And I don't like to blow my own trumpet. There's far better people out there than what I am, but I think that I do my work to a certain level of quality, you know. And I research and I do things. I try and do it to the best of my ability and do it right. And along the way, I go and I qualify in skills that I need qualifications in. Yeah, that's it. Just progress is that's what progress is all about.
I think a lot of tradesmen are the same. I think a lot of tradesmen don't realise how good they are. They'll try the best to do the best to their, like, this is the proper way of doing it and this is how I should do it. And there's only a certain number of cowboys, but they just tend to fucking appear a lot on social media. I can't fucking stand people who take customers' money without doing the proper way or the best possible way. But then you'll get the odd, and I know this because I've got that many contacts now that are tilers and plumbers and bathroom installers and things like that, kitchen fitters. They're all the ones that I know anyway. They'll try and do it properly to the best of their ability, blah blah. But every now and again, there's a few of them that I'll watch what they're doing. And I'm like, yeah, you're not a tradesman. You're an artist, and I really mean that. And I've said it a lot of times. I've genuinely mean it. That there's something about the way that what they're doing that they probably could have gone into a different industry and excelled at it, like artistically in some other way. There's an art about what they do, and there's a lot of tradesmen who are like that, but they don't realise it. They'll probably, if anything, they probably think they're not good enough. I get that from them a lot. I'm like, do you realise what you're doing? Like, there's a particular tiler that I know. I'm like, do you realise what you're doing on the fly? Like, you've been given no designs. You're working out. You're doing maths without realising it, but he'll say shit at maths. And you're clearly not. You're working out angles. You're measuring stuff. You're fucking making something fit that was never going to fit in the first place. You're doing stuff. You're also making it look fucking amazing. You can't just do that. There's something you can teach me to tile as much as you want. You can get me all the best teachers in the world for fucking 10 years solid. I'll never be that good. There's something in it that's like artistic. And I've seen, like, I say it because I've seen the stuff that you do. It's more than just knowing what you're doing. Do you know what I mean? There's obviously a lot of pride in it. And anybody can see it. Just watch your videos. But there's something else in it. I don't know what it is. And it's like, it'd be something that's in that person. It's an art. There's an art in it, basically. I can't think of any other word to say.
Do you know what spoils it for me?
Go on.
Do you know what actually spoils every single job I do? Money. No, I'm seriously, I'm not joking. And I've had this conversation with people and they say, you are absolutely stupid. Shane, I will rather do a job where I can do it to my perfection than having money stand in the way of that perfection.
Yeah.
If I can get a job where they say, I want this, I want it perfect, and they say, go for it, and they walk away and leave me to it, they will come back and they'll be amazed. And I've only ever had 2 customers do that to me.
Mm.
And both of those customers could not believe what they got.
Yeah, like so you without realizing it, people are hiring artists, and I keep saying it. It's because a lot of people laugh at me. I'm fucking serious. So when we were renovating this house, we didn't have unlimited money. But what I tended to do is I knew the people that were working. So even the electrician, right? So I think there's art in what electricians do, and I'll explain why. But so I would tend to say to them, because they're like, "What do you want?" And this is where you can separate the tradesman from the higher end tradesman. I would say to them, "Well, you tell me. I'll give you a rough idea of what I want doing, but you're the fucking expert." And if they're happy that you've said that, you're onto a winner, because they know they're good at what they do. If they're not happy and they need telling what to do, they're not quite at the same level yet. Maybe they'll get there. But yeah, electricians. Some of the favourite. I've repeated this before because it's sad. Some of my favourite stuff that we got done in this house, no one's ever going to see it because it's wiring in the loft. I just love how neat he was with it. I could not believe it, and even he was surprised how much I liked it. Because that's fucking amazing. It's like, you should like take a picture of it or something and put it on your. So it's like, mate, it's just wiring. It's like, yeah, but it's not just wiring in. It's another electrician would have just shoved all the wires up there, and it's like all neat and like radiuses on the corners, and it's fucking amazing. But yeah, it's obviously he had some pride in what he was doing. But yeah, I tend to say to people, you do whatever the fuck you want. You're the expert. But then there's a budget problem then, isn't there? So it's like, have they got the budget to say to someone, you do whatever you want and take as long as you want?
Yeah, you see, I've had jobs where, for instance, it's not long ago where I actually did the LVT flooring and I bent it into the step.
So yeah.
There's no way I could charge for that. I couldn't charge for that. But I did it because when I did the LVT flooring and I overcome that, and I thought to myself, you know what, I'm going to do something special here. I'm going to do something that no one's done before, but I'm going to do it out of my own back. The customer walked in and he went, oh my God, he was so happy. But I didn't charge him for it because I couldn't charge him for it because we'd already agreed a price.
Yeah, and it would have been obscene.
It's going to be a rental.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I can't. So I done it out of purely satisfaction and going, I can. Yeah. And a wow factor for me, not for someone else.
Yeah. That's the thing. And I think that's where I've mentioned earlier, that's where cowboys can get work, because people will say, I just want it done dead cheap, and we don't really care what it looks like after. And that's fucking music to the ears of some dodgy fuckers, innit?
I hate that, mate, honestly. I liked it. You know, when I go and botch something up, and look, I do botch stuff up. I do botch stuff up. I do go and do stuff with my eyes closed sometimes because I've got to, because the landlord, that's what they want.
Yeah.
But does it hurt? Mate, it hurts.
Yeah. I couldn't do it. I've obviously done quite a bit of grouting now and tiling, but I'm not like a good tiler. I could never be a tiler. But even if I could, I fucking couldn't, because I can't sleep. Like, what was it? So I grouted someone's kitchen floor, and it was great. It was nice. Someone else did the tiling, whatever. They were happy, but I knew on there somewhere there was like an indent in the grout that I'd sunk, or I'd finished it wrong or something, and it was fucking bugging me. And I got in touch with the lady's son-in-law, and I was like, listen, do you want me to come and fix it? He was like, what? Fix what? She's fucking happy, leave it alone. You don't need to. I was like, I can't sleep.
Well, if you watch my next video, you'll understand about me having to shut my eyes sometimes and do stuff, because, yeah, I'm not happy. It doesn't make me happy, but you know what? I can't always put stuff out on social media that makes me look good. I also got to put some of the stuff that it's not really good, mate. And you know, but it is what it is. You know, there is a massive industry out there that you've got to not bodge things up, but you got to fix things and fix them over and over and over and over because there's no budget in it, and the landlord wants it like that, and that's it. False
Yeah.
economy, but that's it.
Yeah. So social media wise, so as you say, we've met now. So I've seen your setup. So your camera, I've seen your camera. I've seen how you do it. It's obviously not a phone. It's pretty. I don't even know. It looks fancy to me. So when did all that start? So when you started doing social media, were you already into like? So people know you're quite comfortable talking to camera, and you also quite edit videos quite well. But was that something that you started doing, or did you pick it up after using your phone for a bit?
Okay. I've got a secret to tell you. Right? And the audience, I've got a secret to tell everybody. I shoot all my videos on an iPhone.
Ah, okay. So what's that fancy looking camera?
I've got three of them.
What's that?
GoPros, different ones. I've got a Canon M50. But I shoot on my iPhone. And the reason why I shoot on my iPhone is because I edit on my iPhone. And for me to shoot on my Canon, I got to transfer everything onto the computer, and then from the computer to my phone, and it takes far too long to do that.
Yeah.
I believe that the quality of phones is more than enough for you to shoot your videos and edit your videos and post your videos. So I don't see the need for me to take my Canon M50 to site, get it full of dust and everything. I do use my Canon M50 when I do my outdoor content and it's not raining. Then I use it, and I use my GoPros more and stuff like that. But at work, I solely use my iPhone to video. And then I've got clever little things like that there, right? Which is a magic clamp. Yeah. Which I can clamp onto my trowel or onto my router or so on. And then I've got a little dolly, a motorized dolly, which I have used in the past, where I connect my camera to it and it tracks my movement automatically. Right. So I've got a few gadgets that I do use, but I don't use anything elaborate, and all my editing is done on my phone.
What do you use on your phone? Just so people know.
Right. I use a program called LumaFusion, which is, it's classed as one of the best editing softwares out there. It is a paid software, but it's a very powerful software. You just need to know how to use it. And then along with that, and it's a feature that a lot of people don't know about or not familiar with or whatever, is on your phone, you have got one of the best editing softwares available to you, and no one uses it. I don't know why. And now I can't find it. Yeah. It's called Keynote. Have you heard of Keynote?
Yeah, it's Apple, innit?
Yeah, I mean, Keynote is free and is one heck of a brilliant piece of software to do certain things, and then you can sort of turn them into videos, and you can embed them into your video, and you can do transitions, and you can do all sorts. But for my photos, I use Pixomatic, which is absolutely brilliant, and they've got some AI features in it as well. So I use Pixomatic to edit my photos and stuff like that. But apart from that, it's what I would say is if you've got a phone and you want to shoot content, then there's nothing stopping you from shooting content, from editing that content on your phone, because there's enough apps there for you to do that. And you don't have to go spend thousands to go and get, the best camera and so on. The one thing I will say to most content creators is just spend some money on a microphone.
I was just going to say that.
That's probably one thing that I would say. As much as you can put into a microphone, spend money on a microphone.
Yeah. It doesn't even have to be a lot of money. I've got a cheaper
No,
one.
it
It's
doesn't.
decent enough. This one I'm talking in now.
One for about 80 quid.
Cheaper than that, mate. If you're just starting out, just get like 10 or 15 quid just to see, and then once you've got used to doing whatever you're going to do, buy a better one.
Yeah.
So the reason I ask these questions, especially to someone like yourself, who makes a lot of videos, some people want to do it, but they've got like there's a barrier in front of them, and because they're expecting like, what do I need to get? What do I need to train myself to do? And the answer is nothing. You've already got it. You've got a phone. Yeah. So if you want to talk, I don't necessarily like talking to camera, but if you do, you've already got everything that you need. Just start doing it. Do you ever write yourself a script or anything like that, or do you just talk?
No, I don't script. I'm really bad at talking, Shane. Sometimes I've got like 10, 12 takes on something. I'm really bad at talking. It may come across that I'm good, but I'm not. I'm really horrible at talking, and sometimes I've got to do a lot of takes. I don't script my videos, but I would encourage anybody to script. Yeah. Honestly, I encourage people, do script, do think about your content. You know what? Write out what you're going to create before you even pick up your phone and start shooting. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Write a script, write a whole thing of what type of video you're going to make, everything. Do your research on what's trending first, because you know what? As much as we would like to just pick up a phone and make a video, and that's what I do. I just pick up my phone, I make a video, and I show the content that I'm doing, right? But if you want to do it properly, if you want to grow, if you want to get a lot of followers, if you're looking for that success hits on your videos and stuff like that, then you've got to run with the trending material. You got to go with what's trending. So you do your research on what's trending, then you do a strategy on how you're going to do the video, what you're going to say and stuff like that. Yeah, honestly, script. That's what I say. Yeah,
and that thing of not talk or not thinking you're talking well. Professionals do that. When you see a professional speaking, and I know that because I've been on the other side of the camera, but when you see a professional speaking, it's only really the top, really experienced top people who can do live talking. It's fucking hard, because even with a script, as soon as you need to start talking and sounding natural, it doesn't happen. And I've seen it. I've seen I've seen it happen to the best of the best. So if you have to do like 3 or 4 takes to make it sound good, that's fine. Because everyone
try reading from a teleprompter. Is a teleprompter they call it? Yeah.
It's really difficult. Yeah.
You sound like a robot.
It's really difficult to, even if you're not necessarily reading, to make it sound natural. Even if you know what you're on about, because I mean, was it the last podcast I did? Maybe the last one or the one before that. That's all scripted. Obviously, I had to do a lot of research. So it's all scripted and not scripted, but research in front of me. And it's really hard not to sound like you're reading something, even if you're not, because you're always. There's no way. Like I think it was 6,000 years of history. There's no fucking way I can do that off the top of my head, no matter how much research I've done. So I need the notes in front of me. It's really difficult to sound natural. So yeah, doing a few takes is fine. And luckily, you've got a phone in front of you. You've got a phone in front of you that you can just keep talking. You don't even have to press stop. Just keep fucking talking, like we just did on this podcast. I'll cut it out later. What about away from work? I think I can guess what you might tell me here, but what do you do to keep yourself busy other than work?
Lately, not much. I try and spend as much time as I can with my wife because I hardly see her. I'm always working, and Sundays is for us our day, type of thing. And I am enjoying it. I think the older I get, and the more love I've got for her, the more appreciation I've got for her, and the more time I want to spend with her. Believe it or not. And it sounds really weird me saying this, but yeah.
It's not weird.
So she's my hobby. She's my hobby at the moment. I completely love her to bits, and I'm very grateful that I still got her. So yeah. Apart from that, I don't know how many people know, but I'm a bushcrafter. I love primitive skills, love primitive fire making and stuff like that. And whenever I get a chance to get in the bush and go camping, may it be winter, summer, whatever, and go do some bush cooking and primitive fire skills, I love that.
You should do some TikToks on that.
I do have a channel.
Oh, do you? I don't know your other channel.
Yeah.
What's the other one called?
Yeah. It's called Be Outdoors. BEE Outdoors.
Cool. I'll have a look.
Absolutely. It's a passion of mine. I love outdoor cooking. Absolutely love it. I love cooking in a whole, but outdoor cooking is completely different. I absolutely love it. And I love anything to do with primitive skills. Yeah, I can say that I'm in one of those sets of people that's actually achieved to do the hand drill in the UK and create a fire from rubbing two sticks together. So I'm extremely proud of that.
Cool. I'll have a look at that other channel.
Yeah.
So for people listening, there's two bits of advice that I can ask you for. Kind of covered social media a little bit, but I'll ask you again. But the first one is work-wise. If anyone's listening who wants to be multi-skilled, so forget about the social media aspect of it, just the work. What would be your advice?
Okay, this is going to be a bit of a twist in this one, Shane. I'm sorry. My advice is, if you find something you're good at, stick to that. Don't try and put your hands to everything. Don't go down the route that I've gone down, because it's a long, winding, hard, difficult route. Anybody can be a DIYer. Anybody can fix shit. But to be a competent, multi-skilled person takes a lot of dedication and hard work. And you often find that you're not making near enough what you're worth. And that's my honest opinion.
So specialise in something. As long as you enjoy it, that's good advice.
Absolutely.
And I suppose you'll pick stuff up. Experience brings it all, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But
look, if you like doing multiple things and you do want to go down this route, then what I'd say is learn from others. Go on short courses if you have to. Don't take the long route of learning by failure all the time, but learn how to filter out the correct information from the shit information. Yeah. Find someone that you can work for, even if you do a day's labor at with a carpenter and then one with an electrician or one with a plumber. Yeah.
See what you can get into. And then social media wise, if somebody's sitting there thinking, fucking hell, I'm a multi-skilled person, I'd like to make TikToks, but I'm scared because that other bloke who I follow says we all sound stupid. What's your advice?
My advice is stop worrying about what other people think. If you enjoy putting content out and you enjoy showing people and showing them your experiences, and maybe you got something to offer, something to teach someone else, because you never know. You might have something that you're really good at and you've not put it out there, and people need to know about it. So just get off your backside and get on social media and forget about what people are going to say about you.
Yeah.
Just go for it.
I see this thing like the reason I don't do it, and I have done it, I will do it, but I don't think it's my thing particularly. But I can't remember who said it, but I see it quite a bit, that the price for entry, if that's what you want to do, is embarrassment. The price for entry is, and it's only you that are embarrassed. Nobody actually gives a fuck. You're just embarrassed for yourself. But that's the price if you want to be someone who talks to camera and does social media. I suppose the flip side of it is you don't even have, if you want to get good at the editing and stuff, you listed a shitload of stuff off earlier. Learn them and just edit videos instead. You don't have to talk.
Mate, honestly, I promise you, there are so many videos out there that will teach you every single editing skill you possibly can have or need to know. Yeah. And the whole thing about editing is nothing. You pick it up. It's like a repetition. It's like parroting. You become a parrot where you learn how to do a J cut or that cut or this cut, and you'll soon become good at it, right? Or a transition or whatever. The key thing to making any video is the thought process, and just be different than everybody else. Just be different. Be yourself. Yeah. And yeah. Creativity.
It's good advice to be yourself. It took me years, right, to realise what be yourself meant.
I still don't know what be yourself means.
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because it was always advice that was given to you, but you would never really think, oh, you'll be fine, just be yourself. But it's a tricky one, isn't it? What does it mean?
No, it is a very tricky one, because you know what, right? You when you're on social media, for example, what they say, that all the experts say, you've got to have a hook, and then you've got to have this, and you've got to have that in order for your video. So you're constantly fighting that algorithm. You're constantly fighting, chasing to get views on your video.
No, I wouldn't worry about that. Maybe later, because if you listen, like I've quoted Mr. Beast before as well, he knows fucking everything about everything to do with, I know how to make this video go viral or whatever. Don't worry about that at first, and literally just be yourself. So if you're making something, if you don't particularly like something, you personally don't follow what someone else says is good, or don't follow what Alex says he likes. If you don't particularly like it, don't fucking do it. And if you do particularly like something, do it. And just, that is being yourself. That's having your own fucking opinion on something. And then the way that you present it, don't copy off anyone. You can be inspired by other people to say, oh, I'm going to use that to design this in a similar way to what they did or whatever. But that's not you being yourself if you're just going to completely copy off them. Maybe copy off them as a practice. I'm going to practice and do if you were a singer, you would do cover versions or whatever. But in the end, you're going to have to do your own thing.
Yeah, this the one frustrating part about the social media is there's far too many gurus out there promising you that if you do the way they tell you to do, that you are going to grow and you're going to do this and that, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Just forget about that, because the only thing that they are achieving is they gaining their own followers. Yeah, so basically don't listen to social media gurus, because all they're doing is basically just increasing their amount of followers. You know, they're not interested in you really. And to be quite honest with you, I don't believe most of the gurus are right, because basically they can't be right about every single niche. Every niche is different, completely different. So in a niche of gaming, for example, you got someone that's telling you should do videos like that or like this. It's completely different to in the trade. So no, don't listen.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you very much, mate. I appreciate it. Thank you for telling me the story. It was amazing and personal, so I appreciate it. You didn't have to do that, mate.
Mate, honestly, I think the biggest reason I did do it is so that people actually think twice before they comment on people's videos and stuff like that, because you never know what someone's been through.
Mm-hmm.
Never know someone's life. So that's basically it. Apart from that, you really, really, everybody said this, and I'm going to literate it as well. You're absolutely amazing to talk to. You are, honestly, very easy to talk to, and I was really looking forward to this, and I was actually very anxious last night. I was wondering, what the heck am I getting myself into?
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I did.
Yeah. Do you know what? I don't think I'm like, when you get like the people who have been good at interviews in the past and what have you. I don't think I'm particularly good at that. But what I'll do is listen, because I'm genuinely want to listen. That's all it is. I'm genuinely curious about who I'm talking to, and you can tell if I'm not, because I'm very easy to read.
I was, you know what? I was worried. I've always been worried about people pushing information out of me, and you don't do that. So it's like
it's hard to listen.
I was willing to give it. Yeah, I normally shut down when people try and get it out of me, type of thing.
Yeah, it's hard to shut up sometimes. Just keep your mouth shut.
Yeah, but that was like, Shane, maybe 10% of my life. So I've got so much more that experiences and stuff like that maybe one day I can share a bit more with you.
Yeah, definitely. Come back. We'll read that book.
I'd love to come back one day, yeah.
Definitely. Get that book done, mate, and we'll come on and talk about it.
If I may, there's one thing I would like to do before we end the live.
Yeah.
And I would just like to say to everybody and anybody that listens to this, if you do follow me on social media, if you do follow my videos, I'd like to say thank you very much, because everybody's got a goal or reason why they do social media. And my biggest reason is connection with my viewers. And the thing that I most strive on is when I feel that one of my videos or something I said has helped somebody. And that gives me a purpose in life. So my social media, my videos is, for me, part of a coping mechanism and a healing mechanism. And I really appreciate all the interaction and all the views that I get.
It's a good place to end it, mate. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. I do appreciate it.
Cheers, mate. Bye.
Bye. You have yourself a good evening.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. And stay tuned.